Chapter 1447. Block it. The Golden Crow Ancient Emperor roared. Layers of flames gushed out from his body, revealing the phantoms of the golden crows of the three races. In the end, his entire body was like a huge fireball, illuminating 100 miles. The ancient bronze palace within a radius of 10 miles melted and flowed like wax. The huge bronze pillars bent down. Obviously, he had activated the divine treasures and the Golden Crow bloodline in his body to the extreme. But it was useless. The heavenly annihilation sword was too terrifying. It was a deity artifact. The fire shield was broken by the sword aura as soon as it was formed. Even the fire Dao fragments were immediately destroyed. In the end, the sword auras slashed the ancient emperor of the Golden Crow, leaving deep wounds on his body. Golden blood flowed and the fire flickered. He seemed to be about to explode. Flames were burning and blood was spreading. The ancient emperor of the Golden Crow was already burning his foundation to defend himself. Damn it, I can't hold on any longer. Fuck, the difference in power is too big. Why don't you fight with your life and injure Kang Taechu? Then I can get the best sword. Wu Shujian's face was a mixture of joy and worry. His eyebrows furrowed and relaxed from time to time. Flying swords silently appeared behind him, wanting to launch a sneak attack. Emperor Zhongli. Emperor Ao Wuchang. Everyone, I can't be forgiven. I was the one who attracted the extraterrestrial fiends and caused the destruction of the deity ground. Suddenly, the ancient emperor of the Golden Crow shed golden tears of blood. He was filled with madness, regret and determination as he shouted to the sky. Now, the deity trap array has been destroyed and the ancient earth has fallen. Even your Dharma treasure, the heavenly annihilation sword, has been taken away. I'm in so much pain that I want to die. I only want to go with you. I'm only worried that you won't recognize me. He gripped the bead of annihilation flame tightly and glared at Jiang Tian hatefully. However, I'll take down as many of the ruins emperor and his dogs as possible. Annihilation flame bead, explode. Golden Crow divine beings, burn. Senior, please wait. Jiang Tian pondered upon hearing this. In the blink of an eye, his figure came to a stop as he withdrew the heaven-shattering sword and said, I'm a visitor from ancient earth, Kang Taechu. I'm here to trample the numinous firmaments, destroy the ruins emperor's palace, and slay the ruins emperor's dog head to avenge the ancient sages. What? Are you from ancient earth? Ancient earth didn't fall. The Golden Crow ancient emperor stared at Jiang Tian in disbelief. Exactly. I got the absolute heaven sword from the great Dao seal left behind by Ao Huang Wuchang in the immortal trap formation. As he spoke, Jiang Tian quickly recounted everything that had happened. Woo 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 woo. Late Emperor Zhongli, brother Wuchang, did you hear that? Ancient earth was not lost, and even its spiritual aura was about to recover. Some of the young talents have inherited your will. They have ascended to the sky and crossed 4 light years to come here. They want to show their swords and take back our deity land. They want to create a new world and do what we wanted to do but didn't dare to do, what we dared to do but didn't succeed. The Golden Crow ancient emperor suddenly knelt on the ground and cried. His body kept trembling and he was extremely sad. Golden blood flowed from his wounds. My friend, there seems to be something else going on. The truth of history might not be as simple as what people say. Wu Shujian silently put away the numerous flying swords, tidied his clothes, and used a cleansing talisman to wash away the bloodstains and black ash on his body. He once again transformed into his handsome appearance with red lips, white teeth, delicate features, and white clothes fluttering in the wind. He slowly walked over, frowned, and said in a serious manner. Jiang Tian also felt that something was strange, but he didn't ask immediately. He stood there without saying a word, waiting for the Golden Crow ancient emperor to calm down. In the end, when the Golden Crow ancient emperor stopped crying, Jiang Tian asked. Why didn't Ao Wuchang kill you back then? He had the absolute heaven sword and was more powerful than you. Why did he show mercy? For tens of thousands of years, many ordinary people and cultivators thought that Ao Wu Chang and I were fighting for the throne. You have underestimated us. In fact, many soul formation sages of the ancient times were able to rest on mountains, draw rivers, and live for tens of thousands of years. This kind of ability naturally transcended worldly affairs. Why would they care about the struggle for power? The Golden Crow ancient emperor looked arrogant and said, Ao Wu Chang and I are actually fighting for power. We have different ideas and it's also related to the past of the heavenly courts. How so? Jiang Tian asked. In the ancient times, there were several worlds around the ancient earth. The heavenly courts in the deity ground, the sacred hall in heavenly state and the Buddhist kingdom in Westland. There used to be a fight between the three worlds. It was called the Great War of the Three Paths. It was also called the Great War of the Three Worlds. The Golden Crow ancient emperor's lifespan was extremely long. He had experienced and witnessed many ancient secrets. In order to win the fight, the heavenly courts in the deity ground excavated cultivation resources and killed monsters on a large scale. Many spirit veins disappeared and the spirit chi was depleted. Countless spirit herbs, spirit medicines and spirit beasts went extinct. Is this the war of the three realms before the ancient catastrophe and the twilight of the gods? Jiang Tian asked. That's right. The Great War of the Three Realms happened a long time ago, about 100,000 years ago. During the Great War of the Three Realms, I was just born not long ago and was just a little cultivator. The Golden Crow ancient emperor said. The war between the three realms lasted for many years and people were killed. At that time, there was no deity ground, no heavenly state or Elysium, only hell. In other words, they all became hell. There was only war, killing, death and pain. More importantly, the deity ground also started killing each other. Back then, the Lord of the Heavenly Court believed that there was a traitor in the celestial land, and that there was a struggle over the path, a heretic. Therefore, there were several great purges. Many deities were imprisoned or killed. His eyes were ancient, as if he had returned to the ancient times. That was an era even earlier than Emperor Zhongli. Everything was hidden in the fog of history and not many people knew about it. The purges were launched by the heavenly courts to protect the purity of the team. But in fact, it became a disaster for the deity ground and the heavenly courts. In order to show their loyalty, the deities exposed each other. Even their Tao partners, husband and wife, father and son, and comrades exposed and criticized each other. Many earth-shattering battles broke out, causing the heavens to crumble and the earth to crack. Many deities, even divine kings and quasi-emperors were imprisoned and killed. Sorrow flashed in his eyes, as if he could see mountains of corpses and seas of blood, as if he could hear children crying and helpless pleading. The Golden Crows have always been in charge of controlling the sun and collecting the true fire of the sun. We're called the Sun Guardians. The Sun Palace is our sect. My father was the last Sun Guardian. He was only a cultivator who focused on studying the movement of the planets. He didn't fight with the world, but he still died during the purges. He sighed sorrowfully, his face full of sorrow. At that time, I saw too many ugly and despicable deities in the deity ground and the heavenly courts. There were never any deities. They were just a bunch of dogs that bit each other to protect their status and power. They were even worse than animals. They were more like a nest of maggots. I gradually realized that the deity ground had fallen. It was over. There was no hope. The relationship between the deities and evil in the deity ground, the heavenly courts, and the West Earth was like the ocean and the iceberg floating on it. They were actually a giant body of water made of the same material. The iceberg was only recognized because of its different shape. In fact, it was only a small part of the entire giant body of water. The deity ground and all the cultivators in the ancient times, including the West Earth and the heavenly courts, couldn't have real moral consciousness, just like how people couldn't pull out their hair and leave the earth. To stop the war, to restore order, and to rebuild the civilization, we had to rely on forces other than the ancient cultivators. We had to rely on the extraterrestrial forces. We couldn't change our fate, because all the creatures in our civilization were full of bad habits, such as killing, suspicion, and cowardice. So, at that time, I made up my mind that we had to rely on external forces to stop us from destroying ourselves and the entire world. Chapter 1448. So, the extraterrestrial fiends that invaded the deity ground, the heavenly kingdom, the West Earth and the ancient Earth were really attracted by you? Jiang Tian suddenly thought of something and asked. Yes. The Golden Crow ancient emperor said. After my father died, I was also implicated. I was expelled from the Sun Palace and exiled to a remote and desolate world. They probably thought I had a good ability to study the sun and the stars, so I was allowed to join a base of the Directorate of Astronomy in the ruins of Deity to study the weather and outer space, monitor and search for extraterrestrial life and civilizations. In fact, at that time, the ancient cultivators stopped at the soul formation level. No one had reached the void return level for tens of thousands of years. But even the soul formation overlords, although they said their immortal will could travel the universe, their range was extremely limited. They couldn't even cover a light year and could only cover a small galaxy. In other words, even the masters of the heavenly courts in the deity ground and the supreme deities couldn't reach the South Gate twin stars with their immortal will. At that time, we developed a giant communication Dharma artifact that could transmit messages a light year away without any attenuation, but it was already the limit. It couldn't reach the South Gate twin stars. But you also know that the Golden Crows have been the sun guardians for generations and we have a deep understanding of the performance of the sun. And I know that the sun has a special ability, which is to amplify our signal by 100 times. That day, I adjusted the angle of the transmitter of the communication Dharma artifact and aimed it at the sun. That way, the signal could indeed be transmitted. Jiang Tian heaved a sigh and said, "You want the cultivators from other planets to receive your message and understand the predicament of the deity ground and the other worlds, so that they can come to the deity ground to save you? To stop the war? To purify you? But there's one thing you don't know. A light year without attenuation is a sign of a void return cultivation civilization, but 100 light years without attenuation is a sign of a deity-level civilization, which surpasses the Tao reunion and the tribulation transcendence energy civilizations." Jiang Tian revealed a hint of ridicule, and said, "You used your intelligence to raise the cultivation civilization of the ancient Earth from the soul formation level to the deity level. You're really capable. You seem to understand something," the Golden Crow ancient emperor said as he scrutinized Jiang Tian. "It seems that no living being on ancient Earth or the deity ground has ever reached the void return realm. Only a return to void stage civilization can break through space and travel across galaxies." Jiang Tian said indifferently, "To put it simply, a civilization without return to void stage power is not enough to pose a threat to other cultivation civilizations. At the very least, not in the short term. It's just like how an ant can't swim across the ocean. How can it infringe on the interests of the creatures on the other side? However, an immortal-level civilization is beyond the Tao integration stage and the tribulation transcendence stage. You can dominate this level of the universe, conquer many star fields, and even sweep across many galaxies. You can even break the barrier between worlds, surpass this level of the universe, and ascend to a higher level of civilization. When you fired the cannon at the sun, it's like a 3-year-old child pretending to be an adult, holding a shiny but powerless stick. He broke into a battlefield full of powerful cultivators and claimed that he was going to kill all of them. The other cultivators didn't know the truth. They thought the child was a threat to their lives, so they attacked without hesitation and killed him. They killed him with a snap of their fingers. So, the extraterrestrial demons received your signal and confirmed the location of the deity ground and the ancient Earth. They traveled across the universe and were going to destroy the deity ground, the heavenly kingdom, and the West Earth. I thought a more powerful cultivation civilization would be kinder and friendlier." The Golden Crow ancient emperor remained silent for a long time before he let out a bitter laugh. "But I didn't expect the extraterrestrial demons to be even more terrifying than the ancient cultivators. They were here to kill, to wipe out civilizations. Killing is in their nature. As a result, the extraterrestrial demons invaded and the star destroyers descended. Countless living beings in the deity land and the ancient earth were plunged into misery and suffering. The flames of war continued. Thus, the age of fallen immortals and the twilight of the gods began. When the ancient cultivators accepted the reality of their defeat, Emperor Zhongli began to wander the universe. The deity ground and the multidimensional worlds moved to the South Gate Galaxy. Where did the extraterrestrial demons come from? You should know the answer to that, right? Jiang Tian asked an important question. The Big Dipper. The Golden Crow ancient emperor pondered for a moment and said. What? There's life in the Big Dipper. The extraterrestrial demons that invaded Earth in the ancient times came from there. Jiang Tian was startled again. The Milky Way was getting more and more lively. This was a desolate galaxy in the first place. It couldn't be compared to the central galaxy. In his previous life, Jiang Tian didn't want to travel or cultivate there. Jiang Tian had thought that only the 2 planets in the South Gate had life and civilization, but the Big Dipper also had life. Dubhe, Merak, Phecta, Megrez, Alioth, Mizar, and Alkaid were only 70 to 120 light-years away from the solar system. From the perspective of mortals, and even from the perspective of Jiang Tian's current cultivation, this distance was naturally extremely far. But in terms of the dimensions of the universe, or the energy of the cultivation civilizations that had reached the void returning and Tao reunion level, 100 light-years was really too short. I'm a sinner. Because of my mistake, I attracted the extraterrestrial demons and caused a disaster. Countless creatures died because of it. I feel guilty and I want to help you. But I don't know much about them. I can't help you much anymore. The Golden Crow ancient emperor seemed to have gone back in time and sighed. I committed an unforgivable crime back then by attracting the extraterrestrial demons. After I realized it, I repented and wanted to make up for my mistakes. I fought side by side with the late Emperor Zhongli and Ao Emperor Wuchang, fearlessly and bravely, making great contributions. But I didn't dare to admit it. They didn't know why I was so brave and thought I was a hero. In fact, I even wanted to die on the battlefield earlier so that I wouldn't have to suffer that kind of torture. Later, when the interstellar wandering started, Ao Wuchang found out the truth about me attracting the extraterrestrial demons, so he was furious and turned against me. But in the end, Ao Wuchang let me go after slashing me with his sword because of my merits. The war with the Ruins Emperor had already broken out at that time. All in all, you have to be careful of the Big Dipper. Because of the migration of the worlds in the deity ground and the existence of the deity trap array, Earth doesn't have much spirit chi left. It's no longer attractive to the advanced cultivation civilizations. But I'm still worried that they'll come back one day. The universe is like a dark forest. Everyone is a hunter and also a prey. Their only goal is to survive, hide and destroy the enemy. Right now, ancient Earth is no longer attractive or threatening to the civilizations of a higher level. But a cautious hunter will never let go of any possible threat. It's like a newborn tiger cub, who knows when it will grow up to eat people. The Golden Crow ancient emperor said a lot more. Jiang Tian had mixed feelings after hearing his story. He sighed and said, "Senior, I'm going to war with the Ruins Emperor now. Why don't you let me help you dissolve the Absolute Heaven Sword Scar and repair your body? When you return, we'll break through the clouds and fight the Ruins Emperor to take back the deity ground." Forget it. The Golden Crow ancient emperor shook his head and said sadly, "I'm still a long way from the Void Return realm. But I'm old and have lived for too long. Even if I condense my blood and stop my lifespan, I've reached the limit of my lifespan. Even if I repair the Absolute Heaven Sword Scar, I won't live for long. Besides, I can't face my mistakes. The deity ground used to be so prosperous and brilliant. Now, it's become an interstellar wanderer, occupied and enslaved. It's all my fault." He looked up at the sky. His eyebrows, beard, and lips were trembling. Tears rolled in his eyes. "I've been waiting for an opportunity. Now, it's here. I can go with them without worry." Shang Emperor Zhong Li's predecessors, Wu Chang, Jiao Rui, and my brothers. The sinner Luya has finally come to redeem himself. Chapter 1449. Sensing that Luya was determined to die, Jiang Tian sighed but didn't stop her. Life was precious. Even ants would try to survive. However, some people's lives were too dark and the burden in their hearts was too heavy to bear. Maybe death was really a relief. Kang Te Chu, take it. The Golden Crow ancient emperor activated the divine treasures in his body. A god with a bird's head and a human body surrounded by the true fire of the sun slowly appeared and walked towards Jiang Tian step by step. That was his god. It was another life beyond the physical body and the nascent soul realm. It was condensed with all his cultivation, essence chi, and mind energy. The power and bloodline of a soul formation grand cultivator were all gathered there. The god with a bird's head and a human body turned into a stream of light and went into Jiang Tian's golden core, making the golden core rumble and tremble. His cultivation level rose endlessly. At this moment, Wu Shujian's eyes were red with envy and he wished he could replace him. That was the god of a soul formation overlord and he gave it all to Kang Te Chu. This kid had reached the sky in a single bound. Stepping into the soul formation realm was only a matter of seconds. Senior, although you've made a big mistake, I hope you can let it go and rest in peace. Jiang Tian's body trembled slightly. The Dharma power there was too strong and his body couldn't withstand it. He sighed and said, "It doesn't matter if I let it go or not. I'll die and my consciousness will disappear. This is the only thing I can do for you. This is the creation substance. There's still a lot left. I'll give it all to you." The Golden Crow ancient emperor nodded with a smile. At this moment, his aura began to decline rapidly from the soul formation realm to the Golden Core realm, the foundation establishment realm and finally, immortal. At this moment, his waist was hunched over and he was trembling. His red hair and beard had turned white, and his aura was declining. He was on the verge of death, like a candle in the wind. He was just an ordinary old man. He flicked his finger. From his storage bag, a lump of creation substance that could not stop twisting and transforming flew towards Jiang Tian. He said, "It can help you create 2 bodies. Most importantly, it can prolong your life." Wu Shujian clenched his fists even tighter, and blood almost spurted out from his eyes. In the Alpha Centauri star system, as long as one did not reach the peak of the soul formation stage, one would be in danger of dying at any time. With the creation material, one could rebuild one's physical body. As long as one's divine soul was not destroyed, it was equivalent to having a second life. At this moment, he was doing his best to control his desire to snatch it, because he knew that he was too far away from Jiang Tian's strength. Only death awaited him if he tried to snatch it. Jiang Tian did not waste any time. He took it and tossed it into the sky-devouring demonic gourd. "You can have the annihilation flame bead too." A benevolent smile appeared on Luya's face. "I know you want to use it to strengthen your fire elemental constitution and improve your fire elemental cultivation. This bead, together with the Fusang divine tree I cultivated, the 3-legged golden crows, the 10 incarnations and my natal deity, are enough to push your fire elemental golden core to the nascent soul level, or even higher." The annihilation flame bead emitted a bright light and slowly floated towards Jiang Tian. As for the Golden Crow ancient emperor Luya, after losing the last bit of nourishment from the pearl, his skin first turned dark and gray. Then, it began to crumble like broken porcelain, like withered leaves floating in the wind. In the end, even his muscles, organs, and bones were peeled off layer by layer and disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. A soul formation cultivator used his own Tao fragments to resist the erosion and suppression of the world. But once he lost his power, he would be eroded by time, just like an antique that had been sealed for 10,000 years being oxidized in an instant. The moment he completely disappeared, the void began to wail and thunder rumbled. Ghosts and deities cried and wailed. For some unknown reason, the countless living beings in the heavenly grotto felt a sharp pain in their hearts. They beat their chests with all their might and sang loudly. Nascent soul cultivators touched Dharma laws, while soul formation cultivators were formed by the grand Tao of the world. Every soul formation grand cultivator could sense the grand Tao and resonate with the world. When they died, the world would also sense it and feel uneasy, as if its own son had died. If he died in the place where he became a Tao master, the entire solar system would feel it. There might even be major changes in the world or star phenomena, such as sunspots. The Golden Crow ancient emperor also came from the universe. The stars around him and the world had already changed, but the grotto heaven within a 100-mile radius was shaking. Luya, the Golden Crow ancient emperor, finally died. He could also be the last ancient sage who had lived for a long time. Now, he had also fallen. His history was also buried in the vast passage of time. Even though Jiang Tian had cultivated for 10,000 years and had a heart of stone, he couldn't help but feel a bit sad when he looked back at the life of the Golden Crow ancient emperor. The Golden Crow ancient emperor was an extremely radical and idealist. He wanted to stop the war in the three worlds and rebuild order and civilization when he saw the collapse of the world, the continuous flames of war and the suffering of people. However, he had stared at the abyss for too long, so he was deeply immersed in it. He thought that human nature was evil and was completely desperate. He used the sun to increase the power of the communication Dharma artifact and gave out the coordinates of the deity ground and the ancient earth, which attracted the heavenly fiends. He was the representative of the descendant sect, who looked forward to the arrival of the heavenly fiends. He had once gathered countless grand cultivators and built an army of cultivators to prepare for the arrival of the heavenly fiends. He might even secretly fight with the Lord of the heavenly courts. When the heavenly fiends really arrived and showed their hostility, starting a great battle to occupy the deity ground, he finally understood. He didn't attract a savior, but a disaster. However, he had already made a big mistake. Time couldn't be turned back and history couldn't be reversed. He wanted to be redeemed, so he fought against the heavenly fiends to make up for his mistakes. He didn't care about his own safety and was fearless of death, trying to fight for a chance of survival for the ancient cultivation civilization. He was once valued by the ancient saints. In the end, his actions of attracting the heavenly fiends were discovered and he was despised by the cultivators in the world. Ao Huang cut off all ties with him and killed him with a slash, sealing him there. Then, he met Jiang Tian, who came from the ancient earth. In order to atone for his sins and find relief, he didn't hesitate to commit suicide and gave all his power and resources to Jiang Tian. Ah! Jiang Tian heaved a sigh. He didn't know what to say. An old saying came to his mind. There had never been a savior in the world, nor an immortal emperor. If you can't do something, you should do something for yourself. Don't rely on external forces, because that's something you can't control at all. Fellow Taoist Shujian, please protect me. Jiang Tian cupped his fists and said sincerely, I'll never forget your kindness. He trusts me so much. Wu Shujian was stunned. Then, he cupped his fists and said, it's my honor to protect Tai Chu. Okay. Jiang Tian sat cross-legged and closed his eyes like an old monk. He started to refine the Fusang divine tree and countless three-legged golden crows. At this time, Wu Shujian suddenly realized something. Fuck. This is a sealed grotto heaven. How can anyone barge in and disturb him? Besides, he's trying to break through the level of the fire element. I'm a sword cultivator. I can't help him when he's in trouble. He doesn't need me to protect him at all. He clearly thinks that even if I use all my power when he's about to break through, I won't be able to hurt him at all. That's too much. Kang Taichu, you've gone too far. Realizing this, Wu Shujian felt both ashamed and angry. It was as if Fairy Yao Yu was humiliated by Jiang Tian. He gritted his teeth in anger. Flying swords that had been refined to the size of needles appeared behind him silently. He was eager to try. He walked around Jiang Tian a few times to find a loophole in Jiang Tian's defense. Chapter 1450. Boom. When Jiang Tian started to refine the ancient Fusang tree, the terrifying aura of the true sun flame exploded in Jiang Tian's body. Instantly, the palace shook, the mountains trembled, and the sun and the moon boiled. Like a raging wave, the flame essence swept out. Swish! Wu Shujian was knocked dozens of miles away and fell on the ground like a dead dog. His nose was bleeding. His eyes were filled with fear. Then, he wiped the blood from his nose and said bitterly, "Fellow Daoist Tai Chu, can't you give me a heads up the next time you release your aura?" At this moment, he didn't even think about sneaking an attack on Jiang Tian. It was too terrifying and too strong. Just the aura of the ancient Fusang tree that had burst out naturally and had not been refined had shaken him to the point that 3 of his ribs were broken. If Kang Taechu had only used 10% of his power, he would have died on the spot. Before he heard Jiang Tian's answer, he was shocked to see that Jiang Tian's aura began to rise rapidly. Beams of flame light shot up into the sky like smoke signals, as if they were going to break through the heavens and burn down the ancient bronze palace. Jiang Tian had stepped into a terrifying realm. Jiang Tian had only refined the Fusang tree and a few golden crows, and his red bird divine body had reached the perfected level. He wasn't far away from the transcendent state. In fact, the golden crows were fire divine birds deep in the universe. They weren't as powerful as the red bird, but they weren't far away. Besides, those Fusang tree and the golden crows had been nurtured by Luya for 10,000 years. During that long history, they had swallowed the essence of the sun and the moon, heavenly treasures, blood of nascent soul cultivators and grand cultivators. The energy contained in them was too strong. Keep going. Jiang Tian's gaze was firm. The divine disk, which was as bright as a galaxy, slowly rotated inside his body and let out a sound like a tsunami. The vermilion bird's shadow on the divine disk that looked like a galaxy started to solidify. The true essence of the fire element was burning in his body like a river. In terms of cultivation, his true essence was comparable to that of a nascent soul heavenly lord. It might even be more powerful. However, Jiang Tian was still not satisfied. When Jiang Tian began to refine the essence blood and quintessential essence of the 10 avatars of ancient Empress Marquis Luo, like a volcanic eruption, the fire elemental energy soared into the sky. Even the heavenly abode was blasted open several spatial cracks. That kind of terrifying aura made Wu Shujian tremble in fright, retreating again and again. It's too terrifying. It's clearly the strengthening of the golden core stage, but it surpasses the nascent soul stage. Wu Shujian felt a chill run down his spine. He had a wide circle of friends and had seen many seniors and young talents break through, but none of them were even 1/10 of Jiang Tian's. Within a radius of 100 miles, the entire cave was trembling and rumbling. The Fusang divine trees and 3-legged golden crows instantly withered and turned into spiritual energy that surged into Jiang Tian's return of the Taotai vortex. The vortex was like a black hole that devoured all the fire elemental energy in a frenzy. This huge tremor even affected the ancient demon abyss. Even though Jiang Tian was in a different space, the process of breaking through was too powerful. In the ancient demon abyss, the temperature suddenly rose, as though there was a huge volcano that was about to erupt. Many plants withered instantly. The rushing current valley and many hot springs dried up instantly. Many violent demon beasts, even with golden core strength, were trembling in fright. They fled frantically out of the ancient demon abyss. This included Qi Liqui, Ao Jiao, Baizhe, Long Pajuan, and the others who were guarding this place. They retreated again and again until they were hundreds of miles away. At this moment, I feel that the pressure has surpassed that of a nascent soul stage heavenly lord, or even 10 heavenly lords. Everyone was shocked. At this moment, they felt that Jiang Tian's power was several times stronger than that of Chancellor Kumu and Qin Shuang. They could not help but sigh. The Golden Crow ancient emperor's inheritance was too rich. However, they did not know that Jiang Tian had already obtained the Golden Crow ancient emperor's deity and 10 avatars. The Golden Crow ancient emperor was originally at the soul formation realm and his 10 avatars were also at the nascent soul realm. If Jiang Tian didn't need to form a chaotic divine infant, if he didn't have such high expectations for himself, and if he didn't purposely pursue cultivation, he could have pushed himself to the divine transformation realm. Rumble. When he started to refine the deity, the pores on Jiang Tian's body shot out hundreds of feet of true sun fire, filling the entire grotto heaven. The shadows of the golden crows flew up and down, chirping happily. Their voices pierced through the clouds as though they were going to resound in 9 heavens and 10 worlds. At this moment, Jiang Tian was not human at all. He was more like a bright sun, dazzling and scorching hot. He could burn the land, burn the mountains, boil the sea, refine the stars and shatter the moon. Boom! When Jiang Tian finally refined that deity's essence energy and swallowed it in one gulp, Jiang Tian's expression changed. The unimaginable essence of the true sun fire exploded in Jiang Tian's body. At this moment, his entire body suddenly expanded and became dozens of feet tall. His body, which was completely formed by the vermilion bird true fire, cracked like broken porcelain and almost exploded. The bloodline of the golden crow ancient emperor was indeed inferior to the vermilion bird divine body. However, he had cultivated for 10,000 years after all. The deity that was born from the soul formation realm of the orthodox path contained endless and terrifying essence. It was too terrifying. Bang, bang, bang. Jiang Tian's body was still expanding. 100 feet, 1,000 feet, 1,000 feet. In the end, he reached the top of the grotto heaven as if he was going to explore another space. Duh, 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 duh. It's too scary. Wu Shujian was so scared that his face turned pale and he trembled. This was not Jiang Tian's Dharma form, but a physical body of an avatar. It was very real and condensed. In front of Jiang Tian's huge body, Wu Shujian felt that he was just an ant or a cockroach. Jiang Tian only needed to extend a finger and he could squash him to death. Perhaps he had thought of the 10 avatars of the Golden Crow ancient emperor. At this moment, Wu Shujian gradually understood, or rather, saw it clearly. Jiang Tian's divine body and Dharma form weren't Dharma forms at all, but avatars and avatars. They were as powerful as the original body and even had independent consciousness. Thinking of this, he felt even more terrified. Avatars and avatars had always been the standard for void return overlords. Only the top soul formation overlords could barely make it with the help of external treasures. However, Jiang Tian was a freak. He was only a nascent soul cultivator, but he had 9 avatars. Most importantly, these avatars were all different. It was really strange. Indeed, his guess seemed to have been confirmed. A giant winged dragon separated from Jiang Tian's body. It held the stone cauldron of creation and placed it on top of Jiang Tian's head, letting down the aura of the beginning of all things. That was Jiang Tian's earth-winged dragon divine body, which was protecting him. A chaotic aura spread, as if the world had just been created and all things were born. The cracks on Jiang Tian's vermilion bird true fire were quickly mended. Also, the vermilion bird true fire started to shrink rapidly. 1,000 feet, 100 feet, 100 feet, Kang Teichu's methods are amazing. He was almost blown up just now, but he forcefully expanded his body and covered the golden crow's energy and fire. Wu Shujian's heart raced as he watched, and he clicked his tongue in wonder. Now, the aura of this strange stone cauldron turned into the aura of the vermilion bird and strengthened his body, suppressing the golden crow's energy and fire. Although he had figured out the key to Jiang Tian's breakthrough, as for how Jiang Tian did it, it was not something he could guess. All of this was unheard of, unseen before. When Jiang Tian returned to the size of a normal person, his flaming body also gradually returned to normal. The fire was extinguished and his skin was as clear as jade. He had black hair and black eyes, which made him look like a mortal. Kang Teichu must have cultivated his vermilion bird body to perfection and transcended. Wu Shujian had just been affected by the flames, and his face was covered in ashes. His clothes were tattered, and he was in a sorry state. Seeing this, his face was filled with envy. Chapter 1451. Wu Shujian tidied his clothes and cast out a cleansing talisman to wash away the bloodstains and black dust. Once again, he returned to his handsome appearance with red lips, white teeth, delicate features, and white clothes fluttering in the wind. He walked over and clasped his hands together. He prayed with a joyful face, "Congratulations, Brother Tai Chu. You've improved a lot. Your Dharma power is deep and your life is long." Bang! Suddenly, a loud noise was heard. Jiang Tian's body actually directly exploded into pieces. His precious metal-like bones, his flame-like true essence, and his mercury-like blood all collapsed at the same time, like a heavenly maiden scattering flowers. Like a nuclear explosion, everything in 100-mile radius shook and the entire grotto heaven seemed to collapse. Wu Shujian was knocked dozens of miles away again and he kept vomiting blood. However, Wu Shujian's eyes flashed with a hint of schadenfreude. He clutched his chest and struggled to stand up. Tiny flying swords that looked like silver fish appeared behind him. He thought to himself, "Good. He's gone mad and his body has exploded. I'll have a chance to ambush him." At the golden core level, although the golden core was not destroyed, the body could be reconstructed. But every time it was reconstructed, it had to pay a great price. If part of it was destroyed by the enemy, the body would be lost forever. If only the golden core was left, most cultivators would rather be reincarnated. Otherwise, it would take hundreds of thousands of years to reconstruct the body. With Jiang Tian's current power, if his body collapsed, it would take a few hundred years for him to recover. Just as Wu Shujian silently approached Jiang Tian and was about to start a massacre, the situation in the field underwent a strange change. The blood, bones, flesh and blood in the air were gradually reconstructed under the guidance of an invisible force. The cauldron of myriad origin even released countless mother qi to nourish Jiang Tian's body and make up for his injuries. The cauldron of myriad origin was said to be the first spirit stone when the universe was first created. It had the power to nourish the world and make up for a human being. It was too easy. After being repaired, Jiang Tian's red bird true fire divine body was even more perfect. Boom! Rings of terrifying air currents swept out in all directions, as if a hurricane had passed through. The ancient bronze palaces couldn't withstand his pressure and were torn to pieces like paper. Jiang Tian's body was perfect. Even though Wu Shujian had once roamed the ruins of immortality and seen many chosen and monstrous geniuses with powerful constitutions, he was certain that none of them were as perfect as Jiang Tian. Even the immortal body of a nascent soul stage cultivator isn't so perfect. Wu Shujian sighed, feeling envy, jealousy, and hatred. However, this was not the end. Jiang Tian's vermilion bird primordial fire body was once again bursting apart. The spiritual energy contained in the golden crow ancient emperor Lu Ye's deity was too exuberant. In addition to the Fusang pure wood and the three-legged golden crow, the energy contained in the many clones had reached an unimaginable level. They weren't willing to be refined so easily. They were constantly suffering from backlash and exploding. This time, Jiang Tian's body exploded even more thoroughly. Only his head was left. The vermilion bird divine body turned into surging spiritual essence and disappeared. Rumble. The chaotic origin stone cauldron spun and the energy of the beginning of chaos flowed and seemed to be able to nourish and strengthen Jiang Tian's divine body. Rumble. Jiang Tian exploded and reformed again and again. After 9 times in total, the vermilion bird primordial fire divine body finally reached the transcendence level. At that moment, countless tiny vermilion bird particles gathered together like dust and sand and finally formed Jiang Tian out of thin air. At this time, the vermilion bird primordial fire divine body had already transcended and was not much different from the original body. However, there was a vermilion bird pattern in the center of his forehead, like a burning flame. And all of this was external. The internal changes were even more fundamental. At this moment, Jiang Tian's vermilion bird golden core had expanded to an unparalleled level. It was too vast and kept rushing to the nascent soul stage and even becoming a deity. How terrifying! At the very least, his fire elemental cultivation has already reached the nascent soul realm, or even the soul formation realm. Wu Shujian screamed as though he had seen a devil. In the ruins of immortality, those who could reach the nascent soul realm before the age of 100, or even just needed to form a nascent soul, were rare existences. They could look down on the world, enter the God of War role, join the 100 Moons Academy, and even serve in the ruins Emperor's Palace. And the Jiang Tian in front of him had the hope of reaching the soul formation realm. If he reaches the soul formation realm, he might really defy the heavens and have the hope of sweeping through the ruins Emperor's Palace. Wu Shujian gave himself a fright when that thought popped up in his mind. From the moment he was born, generations of his ancestors had told him that the ruins Emperor was supreme, wise, and mighty. He was invincible in every battle and was undefeated in every attack. He had always believed that. But today, he actually had such a thought. Finally, Jiang Tian could only conjure the myriad origin stone cauldron and use the endless thick earth chains to suppress him, firmly suppressing him to the nascent soul realm. The divine disk formed by Jiang Tian's 9 golden cores kept rumbling and trembling as though it was constantly being hammered by an invisible hammer. When Jiang Tian's vermilion bird divine body reached the transcendence realm, the divine disk finally stabilized. The vermilion bird phantom had already become a true seal. An extremely solid nomological true seal. This meant that Jiang Tian's vermilion bird golden core had successfully formed a nascent soul. Jiang Tian's divine disk's third revolution was finally completed. And at that moment, Jiang Tian looked up at the grotto heaven barrier. Lightning tribulation. Jiang Tian's gaze was focused as he sighed softly. This time, Jiang Tian had met the Golden Crow ancient emperor and obtained his deity, the ancient Fusang tree, and many golden crows. It was such a huge opportunity that it was like a poor kid winning the lottery. Up to now, Jiang Tian had yet to refine the annihilation flame bead, but he had already completed the third revolution of the divine disk. The vermilion bird nomological true seal was formed, and his golden core evolved into a nascent soul. The annihilation flame bead could be stored as resources for the next breakthrough and evolution. It could even be used as a dharma treasure. Jiang Tian's golden core and Taoyue's nascent soul didn't trigger the lightning tribulation because the state of the golden core at that time was the real nascent soul. And this time, Jiang Tian's vermilion bird true essence was close to the soul formation level. It was impossible for him to not trigger the lightning tribulation. Kaboom! Thunderclouds formed out of thin air, almost filling the entire sky above the grotto heaven. There were 81 astral fire divine thunders, Yiwu divine thunders, Xianshui green thunders, and all kinds of lightning tribulations formed in the sky. This is the scale of a nascent soul lightning tribulation. It's terrifying. Wu Shujian was shocked and trembled. He didn't know if Jiang Tian could survive the crisis. Great! Jiang Tianyi wasn't afraid at all. He directly used the lightning slaughter divine body and the Taoyue's returning laws to devour the balls of lightning that were like rivers and dragons of the 9 heavens. If he couldn't withstand it, he would let the lightning tribulation strike him. He stood motionlessly in the vast lightning, allowing the vermilion bird divine body to be refined. In the end, the flames, the vermilion bird and the golden crow disappeared from Jiang Tian's body and gradually transformed into a mortal body. This also meant that Jiang Tian's vermilion bird divine body had finally reached the state of transcendence and became a real avatar. The moment he completely became an ordinary person was when he was at his strongest and weakest. Just as Jiang Tian's face revealed a smile. Crack! A bright blade aura suddenly appeared 100 meters behind Jiang Tian. It flashed across the sky and slashed at Jiang Tian's chest. The blade aura appeared in a strange way. It seemed to have appeared out of nowhere without any signs, and there weren't any terrifying energy waves when it slashed at Qin Fan. However, the moment it hit Jiang Tian's back, its power suddenly exploded. An extremely violent energy shook the entire grotto heaven, as if it were a supernuclear explosion. The blade aura was 10,000 feet long and it even created a 10-kilometer deep abyss on the ground. The entire grotto heaven seemed to be about to collapse. Swish! Jiang Tian swayed his body and moved a few miles forward, but he was still a bit too late. A large amount of blood splattered down from the sky. A 1-meter-long wound appeared on his body. The wound extended from his shoulder to his ribs and his back was cut open, exposing his organs and bones. Under this vicious blade, Jiang Tian was almost chopped into 2 halves. Chapter 1452. Who is it? Wu Shujian was shocked. Someone would definitely attack Jiang Tian. Wu Shujian had expected that. Jiang Tian and Qin Shuang were nothing, but Chancellor Kumu was from the 100 Moon Academy. The 100 Moon Academy was superior and had a close relationship with the Ruins Emperor Palace, Sky Palace, and the 9 troops of the royal family. How could they allow an outsider to kill one of their important people? They would definitely take revenge. What frightened him was that person's skills. Jiang Tian's divine body had been reorganized 9 times and survived the thunder tribulations. It was extremely powerful. Even a quasi-Dao artifact like the dragon-slaying mystic blade could only leave a mark on Jiang Tian's body. It couldn't seriously injure Jiang Tian. Did a soul formation grand cultivator attack? Wu Shujian's face turned pale. What's going on? Why is the grotto heaven broken? All the restrictive spells have been destroyed. Senior Taichu, how are you doing? Then. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. One figure after another flew over like rainbows piercing through the sun. They were Qi Liqui, Ao Jiao, Long Xingnan, and the other girls. Bai Zai, Ta Kong, and Yao Yu Fairy all followed them and stared at Jiang Tian nervously. It turned out that person's slash was so powerful that it broke the grotto heaven of the Golden Crow Ancient Emperor and created a giant space crack. They were concerned about Jiang Tian's situation, so they immediately rushed over. It's a soul formation grand cultivator. Everyone's heart skipped a beat. A soul formation overlord was too powerful. More importantly, Jiang Tian was at the critical moment of his breakthrough. The gate of the grotto heaven was wide open and he was completely unprepared. Besides, the thunder tribulation hadn't ended yet. Jiang Tian was surrounded by enemies. No matter how strong he was, he couldn't resist. Within the vast lightning tribulation, Jiang Tian suffered a saber strike and was almost chopped into 2. The giant wound hadn't really healed and a large amount of divine blood fell. Jiang Tian's divine blood was extremely powerful. Each of them could crush a golden core cultivator. Woo, woo, woo. The heavens and the earth rumbled while the abode shook. In the sky, there seemed to be the sound of the grand Tao resonating while the laws surged. Waves of fluctuations that seemed capable of crushing the heavens filled the sky. This kind of fluctuation and power was terrifying. Even nascent soul cultivators would find it hard to withstand. They felt like they were being suppressed so deeply that it was difficult to even move their fingers. Good saber. Jiang Tian's expression was still very calm. In the void, a long saber that looked like a spike or an awl was floating. This blade was crystalline and translucent like a stream of light. It reflected the surrounding scenery and flickered with a cold light. It was extremely sharp, and one would feel as if one's soul was being sliced apart with a single glance. The surrounding space rippled like waves. This blade was clearly capable of interfering and even brazenly tearing space apart. It was abnormally powerful. Woo woo woo. Crack. Crack. A spatial storm appeared around the saber, slicing the void into pieces. With Jiang Tian's eyesight, he could naturally tell at a glance that this was a true Dao artifact. Its lethality far surpassed Long Xingnan's dragon-slaying mysterious blade. It contained the fragments of the Grand Tao and was a peerless Dharma treasure created by a soul formation grand cultivator. Clank. A pale-skinned hand reached out from the void and grasped the handle of the strange saber. Then, a figure stepped out of the void and gradually appeared. It was a man wearing a black cloak. His pale face was covered by a black cloth and his eyes were extremely indifferent and calm. There was no trace of human emotion. His long robe fluttered in the wind and his cloak and robe fluttered in the wind, like a giant crow in the sky. He gave people an extremely ominous feeling and gave them goosebumps. From his body, Jiang Tian felt an aura similar to the power of space. It was as if he was a part of space and not a mortal body. Kang Teichu, you're very powerful. I can't believe you're still alive after taking a hit from me. The man said with a gloomy voice, like glass scraping the bottom of a pot. It was hoarse and harsh, making people's scalp tingle and goosebumps rise. Ghost Wolf. It's him. At this moment, Yayu Fairy yelled and Wu Shujian was also startled. I heard that he was the top peerless talent of the Chaos Cave sect 5,000 years ago. He was the best at traveling through dimensions, hiding and assassinating. Even Long Baxia and Qin Shuang were no match for him. Some even said that he once tried to rebel against the ruins of deity and entered the emperor's palace several times to assassinate people. He was able to escape when surrounded by several soul formation and nascent soul cultivators. He once killed soul formation cultivators and only captured him when the top overlord of the emperor's palace, Sword God. He should have been sentenced to death if he went to the emperor's palace and offended the power of heaven. But Sword God cherished his talent and didn't want to kill him. He even appointed him as the vice-captain of the Dark Crow Guards, one of the top 3 assassins in the ruins of deity. Long Pajuan said with his immortal will, reminding Jiang Tian to be careful. That kid was a half-soul formation cultivator and was good at hiding in dimensions and assassinating people. Long Xingnan, Qi Liqui, and Ao Jiao felt suffocated. The vice-captain of the Dark Crow Guards was one of the top 3 assassins in the ruins of deity. He was able to escape when he attacked the emperor's palace. Even Long Baxia and Qin Shuang weren't as powerful as him. He had even killed a soul formation overlord. Master, you have to be careful. The blade in his hand is called Void Piercer. It's the most precious treasure of the Chaos Cave sect. It's made with Hell Ghost Iron and refined with the Dimension Law and Grand Tao for 10,000 years. It can tear the dimension apart and even create a dimensional curvature wave to increase its speed. Long Pajuan was anxious. An overlord like Ghost Wolf was definitely terrifying. Not only was he powerful, but he was also good at all kinds of assassinations. Normally, he wouldn't fight with his Dharma power and cultivation. Instead, he would dodge and attack, which was impossible to guard against. That way, he would preserve his strength to the greatest extent and sacrifice a lot of his enemies in exchange for a small price. So, even though he was only a half-soul formation cultivator, he was still able to kill soul formation overlords. Ha! He's just someone who lost to Sword God in the Emperor's palace. If he were here in person, I might have to be careful. Jiang Tian's expression was very calm. It could even be said that he was looking down on him. Assassination? Tearing the dimension? If Jiang Tian used the extreme speed of the Kunpeng, not many people could surpass him. The Kunpeng controlled the dimension law. It was almost instinctive. It could attack 3,000 worlds in an instant. It was unparalleled. Ghost Wolf. Jiang Tian could tell. He had a kind of dark crow bloodline. This kind of strange bird bloodline was not bad. It could indeed break the dimension in a small area. But it also depended on who it was compared to. In terms of speed and length, the dark crow bloodline couldn't compare to the Kunpeng bloodline. Ha, you're arrogant. You can't hold on. A gloomy smile appeared at the corner of Ghost Wolf's mouth. His scarlet eyes were full of cold mockery. It could be said that he was extremely conceited. Void Piercer wasn't an ordinary weapon, but a Tao artifact. It would leave traces of the great Tao. Jiang Tian had already been hit. He couldn't live for more than 10 seconds. But immediately, his smile and mockery froze on his face. He couldn't smile anymore. This was because he saw vermilion bird flames erupt from Jiang Tian's wound. The traces of the great Tao left behind by the Void Piercer were completely disintegrated in the blink of an eye. The wound healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. Runes formed by blood intertwined and quickly repaired the wound. In just 3 seconds, Jiang Tian had returned to his original state. Chapter 1453. How is that possible? Ghost Wolf's eyes were wide open. For the first time, a serious expression appeared on his face. He was even a little flustered. This kind of panic was extremely rare for him. As one of the top 3 assassins in the ruins of immortality, Ghost Wolf had killed too many people. He had killed as many nascent soul stage cultivators as he could count them on 2 hands. He had also carried out many extremely dangerous missions. He had been besieged by many nascent soul stage cultivators and divinity transformation stage cultivators. His mind had been tempered to the extreme. But this time, he panicked. That was because he knew how powerful Void Piercer was. His Void Piercer was the most precious treasure of the Chaos Cave sect. It was left behind by a soul formation cultivator in the ancient times and had been refined countless times by him. It was a fierce and powerful Taoist artifact. After being stabbed, it would leave traces of the Great Path in the enemy's body, which would constantly devour the enemy's blood essence and cultivation. Only soul formation cultivators could hope to resolve it. As for golden core cultivators and nascent soul cultivators, once they were hit, they would die immediately. But the kid in front of him was only in the nascent soul realm, but he could burn the traces of the Great Path and repair his body so quickly. It was unbelievable. Ghost Wolf was shocked. But he quickly calmed down. His Taoist heart was far stronger than that of Chancellor Kumu and Qin Shuang. He was resolute and fierce without the slightest hesitation. Kang Te Chu, you will always be an ant in the mortal world. Since you are an ant, you should have the self-awareness of an ant. Lie on the ground and die silently. You shouldn't have resisted. Ghost Wolf's face was gloomy and endless determination flashed across his face. He held the Void Piercer with both hands and slowly raised it. With a swish, the void shattered. He pierced through the space and disappeared into it. In the next moment, he appeared behind Jiang Tian. The piercing space spear appeared once again, stabbing towards Jiang Tian's back without making any sound. In the eyes of ordinary people, this attack was silent, but only cultivators above the nascent soul realm could feel that the space was shattered and a hole had been pierced. This kind of space-shattering power was incomparably powerful. Once affected, even an immortal golden core cultivator or a more tenacious and powerful nascent soul cultivator would be shattered and annihilated. Swish! This saber strike was too strange. Its speed was comparable to the speed of light. Even with Jiang Tian's heaven-defying speed and without using the Kuan Peng's extreme speed, he could only turn half of his body around. The 3-foot-long divine disc behind him rumbled and the Gung Jin nascent soul trembled. Jiang Tian switched to the Gung Jin immortal body and raised his golden arms to meet the attack. As a result, the saber stabbed at him. The terrifying power of space shattering caused cracks to appear on Jiang Tian's right hand, causing sparks to erupt. The terrifying space-piercing power passed through the back of Jiang Tian's hand and directly broke through the Heavenly Abode's enchantment. It even pierced a huge hole in a 1,000-foot-tall mountain outside the Heavenly Abode. Everyone felt a chill run down their spines as cold sweat trickled down their backs. Too strong. Ghost Wolf's attack could easily kill a nascent soul Heavenly Lord. Regardless of what level of nascent soul he was at, he definitely had the power to kill a normal nascent soul cultivator. Even if you were at the peak of the nascent soul stage, or even half a step into the divine transformation stage, you might not be able to do that. That was why Ghost Wolf was so terrifying. The art of assassination allowed his combat power to be much higher than his cultivation level. He could kill enemies at a higher level. You are so lucky this time. If I had hit your Dantian, you would have been killed. Ghost Wolf's eerie voice rang out, but he had already disappeared along with the void-piercing saber. Just like his name, he was as elusive as a ghost and as vicious as a wolf. He was the best assassin cultivator. If he missed his target, he would immediately escape into the Heavenly Abode. But you won't be so lucky this time. Hit! Then, without any warning, Ghost Wolf appeared in a completely unimaginable position and attacked again from an unimaginable angle. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. Ghost Wolf used his full strength. He broke through the heavenly abode again and jumped out of the heavenly abode to stab Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian could only resist with the gung metal immortal body, which had the strongest defense. Almost in the blink of an eye, Jiang Tian was hit several times. Jiang Tian's gung metal immortal body instantly cracked. The most serious wounds were so deep that his bones could be seen. His organs were implicated as divine blood stained the sky. Terrifying. As expected of the third-ranked assassin in the ruins of immortality. I heard that no one has ever seen his true face in his entire life at the ultimate realm because those who have seen him are all dead. Wu Shujian shuddered in fear. 100 Moons Academy nurtured cultivators loyal to the Ruins Emperor and had set up many courses. And Ghost Wolf's few assassination attempts were treated as classic examples by countless chancellors and instructors for them to learn from. It could be said that if not for the sword god of the Ruins Emperor's palace personally suppressing him, Ghost Wolf might not have been subdued. He would still be able to roam the various worlds, catching people off guard and leaving them helpless. Senior, be careful. Qi Liqui and Ao Jiao cried out worriedly. Even Patriarch Takong broke out in a cold sweat for Jiang Tian. He had the Kuanpeng bloodline and was known for his movement techniques and speed. However, he had not reached Ghost Wolf's level of shuttling through space as though it was water. He was completely at the mercy of nature. However, Jiang Tian showed no fear. He had yet to use his true strength. If he were to use the Kuanpeng's extreme speed, Ghost Wolf would probably immediately be captured. He had yet to use many of his Dharma treasures. If he were to draw Absolute Heaven, he would probably be able to instantly shatter Void Piercer. Furthermore, he had yet to fully use his gung metal immortal body. That was because he still needed to withstand the lightning tribulations to strengthen and temper his vermilion bird divine body. Many a time, the moment the lightning tribulations descended, he would immediately transform his physique. However, Ghost Wolf was different. He was attacking with all his strength and was even fighting with his life on the line. Jiang Tian could not help but suspect that the punk had something in the hands of the Ruins Emperor's palace. If not, he would not have risked his life. Admit defeat. Kneel down and submit. With Void Piercer in hand, Ghost Wolf bellowed coldly. No one is the match of the Ruins Emperor. Emperor Zhongli can't do it. Ao Wuchang can't do it. Jiao Rui can't do it. Similarly, you can't do it either. Trash. As he bathed in the massive lightning tribulations, Jiang Tian's vermilion bird divine body was constantly covered in charred marks. There were also terrifying wounds left behind by Void Piercer. You were once like me, resisting the Ruins Emperor. But in the end, you lost your drive and courage because of your failure. You are a true coward. However, Jiang Tian remained calm. The lightning tribulations were a rare form of tempering. He also treated the Void Piercer's attacks as a form of tempering. Again and again, he was slashed and injured before being mended. It was like ordinary metal being tempered thousands of times. It became more solid and resilient, reaching an unimaginable level of strength. Jiang Tian's face was filled with mockery as he said indifferently, I don't know what kind of failure and pain you experienced. Was it the humiliation of your wife and daughter, or the annihilation of your clan, that made you forget who your true enemy was? That made you become a slave to this extent, serving your former enemy. Upon hearing Jiang Tian's words, Ghost Wolf's face suffused anger for the first time. Yes, anger. Before this, Ghost Wolf's face would be filled with contempt or disdain. However, he was always cold, as though he had no human emotions. But this time, he was touched on his sore spot. Shut up. Ghost Wolf bellowed with hatred. His right hand gripped Void Piercer tightly. Qi La. The Void Piercer let out a shrill cry in his hand. It sounded like the wailing of ghosts and howling of wolves. The great Tao fragments contained within had been completely stimulated and were wailing in admiration. Resplendent streams of light instantly flew out from the surroundings of the Void Piercer. It was a beautiful sight to behold. However, Patriarch Takong and the others who truly understood what was happening were alarmed as they cried out in alarm. That was space being pierced into the tiniest spatial particles. The void piercer was completely unobstructed. At that moment, the great Tao of heaven and earth resonated with each other. The vast laws were boiling. It was as though a true soul formation realm mighty figure was awakening. The pressure was immense, and the entire grotto heaven was riddled with holes. The ancient bronze hall was reduced to rubble. Even the entire ancient demon abyss was trembling. Streams of spatial turbulence shot out in all directions. Within a radius of a few thousand miles, the mountains collapsed and the earth cracked. Some golden core stage demonic beasts were suddenly split into two. Sparkling blood rained down. They did not even have the time to cry out before their corpses fell heavily on the ground. They died silently just like that. Chapter 1454. Black Rock City, City Lord Manor. Chi Jiui, who was guarding the place, suddenly opened his eyes. His face was filled with panic as he said in surprise, "What's going on?" "That's a Dao treasure." Who would activate a Dao treasure in the ancient demon abyss? Could it be for the Taichu Heavenly Lord? This is bad. Tens of thousands of miles away, on an unknown ancient teleportation array platform. Cultivators wearing white-scaled armor with terrifying white pythons embroidered on their battle robes stood in great numbers in the air. They were expressionless, silent, and strict. There were at least tens of thousands of them, and one couldn't see the end of them with a single glance. Most of them were at the Golden Core realm. In the Yingzhou world, they would be city lords, generals and nobles. But here, it was obvious that he was only a guard at the lowest level. Huge bronze ancient warships floated in the air. Other than that, there were also other huge Dharma treasures. They looked majestic and powerful. This was an elite troop. Ghost Wolf seems to have used his full strength. Sigh, the Dark Crow Guards have taken the lead this time. The captain of the White Python Guards, a half-step soul formation Grand Cultivator, Wu Huan, stood on the deck of a huge warship and smiled casually. Although the Ruins Emperor's Palace's sword god placed great importance on the mission, to the point of sending Prince Chiu Ming to supervise the battle in the sea below world, Wu Huan felt that it was making a mountain out of a molehill. The operation to kill Jiang Tian was nothing more than a trip to the lower realms. He thought nothing of it. How powerful could a mere lower world cultivator be? So what if he killed a few nascent soul realm cultivators? But he didn't know that in the vast ruins of immortality, nascent soul realm cultivators were as numerous as carps in the river. There were even quite a number of soul formation realm cultivators. Wu Huan was already a half-step soul formation realm cultivator and was powerful enough. But he was only the captain of the White Python Guards, one of the 9 guards of the Ruins Emperor. He wasn't even the captain of the Golden Crow Guards. Ghost Wolf is already very powerful. He even used his ancestral void-piercing saber. When he uses it at full strength, it's comparable to the attack of a soul formation realm cultivator. The deputy captain said angrily. But Prince Chiu Ming arranged it this way. What can we do? After this battle, the Dark Crow Guards will be ranked ahead of us. That's not the case. Captain Wu Huan shook his head and said casually, "You have just been appointed, so there's a lot of news that you are unaware of. In fact, there are countless cultivators like Kang Tae-chu who don't know what's good for them in resisting the Ruins Emperor. I kill thousands of them every year. There's nothing special about Kang Tae-chu. It's just a small addition to the Dark Crow's achievements, but it still can't compare to our White Python Guard. Alas, if we had thousands of men and horses, we would have directly trampled over them. Kang Tae-chu's body and soul would definitely be destroyed. Is there a need to go through so much trouble?" The leader of the Golden Crow Guards, Shin Chang, also snorted coldly from another teleportation formation in the distance. He was tall and wore golden armor. He was as tall and majestic as a mountain. He was also at the half-step divine transformation realm. However, his strength was even deeper than Wu Huan's. He was infinitely close to the divine transformation realm. It was as though he was only separated by a thin layer of paper. He could reach the limit in battle at any time and break through the bottleneck. Behind him, tens of thousands of cultivators stood. They were even stronger than the white python guards and were equipped with elite equipment. The purple bronze warships and dragon horse war chariots formed a metal torrent that seemed to be able to destroy everything. They were the top elite guards under the ruins Emperor's palace. They were even stronger than the other 8 guards and were highly regarded by Prince Chiu Ming and the sword god of the ruins Emperor's palace. Yes. Behind him, there were also some cultivators who did not wear armor, but instead wore feather robes and star crowns. They were like flames that burned the sky, or bright moons, or suns that covered the sky, or flickering with silver light. Every single one of them had a powerful aura, and their bodies were surrounded by the rumbling of laws. No one dared underestimate them. They were the elite cultivators of the 6 major heavenly sects from the below sea world. There were more than 100 of them, and each of them was at the nascent soul realm. They could be called heavenly lords. At that moment, countless cultivators from the upper world looked at the ancient demon abyss with disdain, as if they were watching someone seriously squash an ant. And Jiang Tian was that ant that was about to be squashed to death. Whoosh! The void-piercing blade pierced through the air like a ray of light. An earth-shattering battle had finally begun. When the blade pierced through the air, the dimension collapsed and countless mountains collapsed. Colorful cracks in the dimension covered the sky like a spider web and extended for a few kilometers. Even the thunder tribulation in the sky was triggered and turned into bolts of lightning in the shape of divine beasts. Qilins, dragons, tigers, fire phoenixes and mystic snakes attacked Jiang Tian from the sky. It was a terrifying scene, and there were all kinds of strange noises that were deafening. Traces of Tao fragments appeared in the sky. That attack had the power of a soul formation realm cultivator and was full of killing intent. Any trace of Tao could easily kill a nascent soul heavenly lord. How terrifying! Wu Shujian felt a chill down his spine. The void-piercing blade was a Tao artifact that contained Tao fragments. It was refined by a living fossil of a soul formation cultivator and could temporarily unleash the power of a soul formation cultivator. Wu Shujian had never seen the traces of the great Tao that tore through the void and caused everything to collapse in an instant, and the dazzling saber light. In his opinion, even the elites of the God of War role, the sect masters of the heavenly sects, the leaders of the families and all the nascent soul cultivators were like ants in front of that slash. It could be said that any blade aura or trace of the Great Path could easily kill a talent on the God of War list. That's a real Tao artifact. Even the Dragon Slayer Mystic Blade is a far cry from it. Long Xingnan looked at the blade aura in the sky that easily cracked the dimension and shattered the sky. She was so excited that her body trembled. Her Divine Slayer Mystic Blade was called a Quasi-Dao artifact, but the Void-Piercing Blade was a Dao artifact. It was only at this moment that she realized the enormous gap that this difference of one word represented. As for Ao Jiao and Qi Liqui, they were already trembling in fear. If it weren't for the fact that Ta Kong and Long Pejuan had formed a shield with their true essence, golden core cultivators like them would have been torn to pieces and smashed to pieces. Right then, the fierce beasts of the ancient demon abyss and the cultivators of the Black Rock City were running away. They couldn't withstand the terrifying pressure. That's a battle between soul formation grand cultivators. Run, run. Don't get us involved. Soul formation grand cultivators. They're going to destroy our world. They were terrified and ran away like a tide. The energy waves were too terrifying. The ground shook like the skin of a drum. The gullies became mountains and the peaks sank into the abyss. In the legends, the ancient sages could move mountains and fill seas, and turn land into rivers, but that was it. The soul formation grand cultivators were indeed terrifying. They were superior and looked down on everyone. Not to mention the Yingzhou state, there hadn't been a single soul formation grand cultivator in tens of thousands of years, including the Hylon world. To be exact, there might not be a nascent soul cultivator in their world for thousands of years. How could they not be scared when the soul formation grand cultivators were fighting? If such giants clashed, they would probably destroy a small portion of the ancient demon abyss. It would cause the heavens to crumble and the earth to crack. It might even spread outwards and cause the Blackrock City to crumble. City-destroying fiery blade. Facing this attack that could sink a continent and pierce through the sky, Jiang Tian coldly snorted and used the vermilion bird divine body. Streams of flames gushed out from his body, and then he caught the fire and condensed it into a blade, blocking it with his blade. At this time, Jiang Tian's vermilion bird true fire was already incomparably solid. This flaming long blade looked as if it was carved out of magnificent agate, sparkling and translucent. However, the powerful essence of the true fire inside had caused the space within 10 miles to collapse. Jiang Tian's fire blade was also formed, which could burn mountains, boil oceans and melt stars. Even 10 nascent soul stage cultivators couldn't resist it if they worked together. But the next second. Swish! Jiang Tian's fire saber forbidden domain was instantly pierced through like a piece of paper, unable to withstand a single blow. Jiang Tian, along with his saber, was stabbed into a large mountain, forming a hole that was dozens of kilometers long. It was like an underground cave. Chapter 1455. Senior. My lord. Ao Jiao and Qiliqui turned pale as they cried out in shock. Oh no. Even Bai Zai, Ta Kong, and Mingyi's expressions changed drastically. Kill him together. The big black dog was so angry that his eyes turned scarlet. This time, he was not afraid and wanted to avenge Jiang Tian. Since the day he followed Jiang Tian, he had never seen Jiang Tian suffer such a big loss. At this moment, he hated Ghost Wolf to the core and wanted to chew him to pieces. It's just a little crow. What's there to be afraid of? Beat him up. Bai Zai activated his Dharma idol and wanted to fight Ghost Wolf. He only knows how to sneak attack. Today, he must be killed. Ao Jiao and Princess Liqui also activated their bloodlines and activated their Dharma idols. Ha, the winner is king, the loser is a bandit. Ghost Wolf's face was gloomy. He was very vicious and ruthless. He attacked Ao Jiao and Princess Liqui with his saber. Buzz! The ground trembled, and a space seemed to have been opened. A majestic Kuan-Peng with huge wings covered the sky as if it could destroy 3,000 worlds appeared out of thin air. It grabbed Ao Jiao and Qiliqui and disappeared in the blink of an eye. The place where the two women were standing was suddenly pierced by the Kuan-Peng, and a huge crack more than 20 kilometers long appeared. It was as shocking as the Grand Canyon of East Africa. Such a strange thing shocked everyone. Even Wu Shujian was shocked. How did the two women suddenly disappear? That Kuan-Peng could actually break through space. There was a loud rumble. Rocks flew into the air and soil flew. Jiang Tian soared into the sky, and a shocking hole appeared in his chest. Even the organs were clearly visible in this hole. There were flames lingering around it and divine blood permeating the air. For many cultivators, this could be said to be a fatal wound. However, Jiang Tian's battle intent was still high, and his killing intent was surging. His expression was very calm and composed, and it even carried a faint trace of disdain. Senior Tai Chu. At this moment, everyone was shocked. Not to mention the result of this battle, it was already a miracle that Jiang Tian could last until now. It was enough to be proud of the world. What a hateful guy. They're like cockroaches, dirty and tenacious. Ghost Wolf revealed a look of anger. His eyes were as fierce as those of a wolf that was about to devour its prey. He had not expected such an outcome. He originally thought that as long as he made a move, he would be able to finish off Jiang Tian with a single slash. At this moment, he felt that his dignity as one of the top 3 assassins of the ruins of immortality had been trampled under Jiang Tian's feet. How many chances have you had? The wounds on Jiang Tian's vermilion bird godly body were covered in flames that quickly dissolved the marks left by the air piercer. Those wounds healed at a speed that naked eyes could observe. Even if he was in a disadvantageous position, he still didn't feel the slightest sense of panic, nor did he seem to be in a sorry state. Instead, he was extremely domineering, calm, and carefree, and it was as if he possessed the pearl of wisdom. Ghost Wolf, I know that you were once suppressed by the Ruins Emperor. You even have a blood feud with him. Shake hands with me and make peace. Let's go to the Ruins Emperor's palace to seek justice from that old wretch. As soon as Jiang Tian said this, many upper realm cultivators who were watching from afar and observing with their divine senses almost burst out laughing. This guy really doesn't know what's good for him. He doesn't know what's good for him. He's about to die and he still wants to incite Ghost Wolf. What's his brain made of? He's being suppressed by Ghost Wolf and can't fight back at all. How dare he be so arrogant? He doesn't know that Ghost Wolf is already half a step away from soul formation. With a Tao artifact, he can unleash the power of a soul formation cultivator several times. I'm afraid that Kang Taechu will die in less than 10 breaths. How dare he say such nonsense? Creatures from the lower realm are just stupid. Maybe he doesn't even know what a real Tao artifact is. Is that called the lower realm? The earth realm he's in is a desolate wasteland. People like him are cockroaches. The Golden Crow Guards, the White Python Guards and the sect masters and elders of the 6 heavenly sects in the below sea world, except for the Dragon Gate, were all powerful nascent soul cultivators. They also looked at him with disdain, as if they were looking at a fool. You talk too much nonsense. Ghost Wolf's weakness had been touched. He was extremely irritated and his murderous intent surged. The air piercer attacked again, shocking the world. Dharma laws surged and the great Tao rumbled. The power of a soul formation cultivator was completely unleashed. Boom! The rumbling of the great Tao resonated with his actions. The entire grotto heaven seemed to be collapsing. A visible dimensional energy swept toward Jiang Tian like waves. Jiang Tian was knocked dozens of kilometers away and crashed into many mountains. In the end, his body sank into a mountain and disappeared again. At this moment, Ao Jiao and Qiliqui couldn't take it anymore. Even though they didn't want to, they were still dragged out of the grotto heaven by Ta Kong and Mingyi. Even Wu Shujian didn't dare to stay there any longer. He immediately ran away with Fairy Yao Yu. The grotto heaven was about to collapse and many arrays were about to be activated. By then, not even nascent soul cultivators would be able to withstand it, they would be torn to pieces. However, Jiang Tian didn't seem to feel anything. He rose to the sky again and dashed toward Ghost Wolf while bathing in the Thunder Tribulation Ocean, as if he were courting death. Rumble. At this moment, the entire paradise began to crumble. One by one, the formations and seals that were created by the ancient sages began to explode with extreme power. In the sky, huge mushroom clouds rose. Every time they exploded, the terrifying shockwaves were comparable to 10 nuclear explosions. The destructive power was astonishing. The terrifying energy surged and rubbed against each other. This kind of explosion was nothing to the Ghost Wolf. He was like a ghost, drifting in and out of the mushroom cloud like a butterfly. He didn't get hurt at all. At the same time, he slashed at Jiang Tian again and again without showing any mercy. And Jiang Tian. From time to time, he would stagger or stiffen from being struck by the lightning tribulation, or he would be blown away by the collapsing and exploding formations like a rag doll. At this moment, the air-piercing saber would definitely not let him off after gaining the upper hand. It would immediately pierce through his body. If his red bird divine body didn't have a good recovery ability, he would have died. Even so, he was still suppressed by Ghost Wolf. Kang Taechu is going to die. Many elders of the heavenly sects and the masters of the White Python Guards, the Golden Crow Guards and the Dark Crow Guards were watching the battle a few 100,000 kilometers away with immortal will or Dharma artifacts. There's no doubt about it. Ghost Wolf and the real air-piercing blade. Even Qing Aojuan or Luo Changshan on the longevity roll, or a real soul formation grand cultivator, would be defeated. The masters of the Dark Crow Guards were proud of them. Even a lion tries its best to catch a rabbit. Don't be careless. Kong Tae-chu seems to know how to break the dimension. He might run away. Friends, spread out and surround the ancient demon abyss. The white python guard Wu Huan warned. But it was just a habit. He still looked relaxed and apparently thought it wouldn't be a problem to kill Jiang Tian. The outcome had been decided and nothing could be changed. Meanwhile, Jiang Tian seemed to be in a miserable state. The power of the air-piercing Dao artifact was too terrifying. Even an inferior-grade air-piercing Dao artifact was as powerful as a soul formation Grand Cultivator. Before he reached the nascent soul level, it was indeed a bit difficult for him. He was like a withered leaf in the wind and was blown away again and again. He was like a small boat in the middle of a huge wave. He couldn't control his own trajectory and was almost torn apart by the storm. But all of this was part of Jiang Tian's plan. The red bird divine body was going through the thunder tribulation. It wouldn't be easy for him to kill Ghost Wolf. So, he might as well take advantage of the situation. He treated Ghost Wolf's air-piercing blade as a tribulation to purify his divine body, refine his golden core and strengthen his divine soul. That way, the red bird divine body would enter the transcendence level faster. It would be flawless and perfect. I'll take your life in 3 slashes. Ghost Wolf snorted and stabbed with his blade. That slash knocked Jiang Tian out of the grotto heaven small world of the Golden Crow Ancient Emperor and into the ancient demon abyss. His black cloak fluttered in the wind and he approached with a blade in his hand. His pale face was full of murderous intent and coldness. He was like a crow from hell, giving people an ominous feeling. Chapter 1456. The space around the void piercer shattered like diamonds, sparkling and resplendent as it floated in the air. At this moment, Jiang Tian looked miserable. His body was covered in wounds, and blood was dripping from the corner of his mouth. At this moment, he was like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. In the eyes of everyone, Jiang Tian was no match for Ghost Wolf. He could not last 3 strikes. At this moment, Ao Jiao and Qi Liqui were pale. Bai Zai and Long Pejuan were impulsive. They wanted to go save Jiang Tian, but they were forcefully held back by old monster Styx and old ancestor Ta Kong. It was not that they were not loyal or worried, but they knew that if they rushed up, they would not be able to last more than a flick of a finger. They could not change the outcome. Moreover, they had confidence in Jiang Tian. Listen to the command. The master did not order us to go forward. Mingi blocked Long Pejuan's path and yelled, "Do you think we're afraid of death? Never. Our lives belong to the master. If he wants us to die, we will not hesitate." Did you not notice that the master is smiling? Ta Kong reminded them. How could they be afraid of death? This was because Long Pejuan did not understand their friendship with Jiang Tian. Long Pejuan and the others turned around in shock. They saw that Jiang Tian was standing in the air and smiling. Could it be? Everyone was suspicious. You are about to die, and you are still smiling. Are you crazy? Ghost Wolf approached with his saber. Did you not notice? The lightning trial is over. Jiang Tian's face was calm. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He was intoxicated. Ghost Wolf looked around and saw that the lightning clouds, lightning dragons, and sea of lightning had all disappeared. Even the miasma in the ancient demon abyss had disappeared. Only pure spiritual chi was left. It was as if this was not the territory of demonic beasts, but a paradise for cultivation. Kiki, so what? Without the help of the lightning trial, I can still kill you like a dog. Ghost Wolf's aura was sinister and evil. The dark crow's body was very special. It could fuse and travel through different levels of space. Intuitively, he was like a shadow, appearing and disappearing. Chi La. He suddenly moved again. Like a bolt of lightning, he split open space and charged towards Jiang Tian. The void piercer stabbed again. He could vaguely see that it was clearly daytime, but wherever the blade passed, there was a bustling city. Lanterns were lit, and it was night. Pedestrians were strolling, and there was even a starry sky. There were desolate meteorites, and the scenery of outer space. All of this was incompatible with the primitive atmosphere of the ancient demon abyss. Everyone was shocked and dumbfounded. With a single stab, the ghost wolf split the heavens and the earth. The primal chaos of the sun and the moon gave birth to the world. It actually created a space of 10,000 feet out of thin air, or adhered to the space of another dimension. He used the power of space to attack Jiang Tian. The dimension he stabbed might be thousands of miles away, in another world or even in the depths of the unknown universe. If Jiang Tian was hit, his body and divine soul would be torn apart and sent to different worlds. Not even a soul formation grand cultivator would be able to rebuild his body. Sigh, the end of the lightning tribulation means that my vermilion bird divine body has truly transcended. The vermilion bird true fire law true seal had also been refined to an incomparably solid state. The third transformation of the divine disk is truly complete. Before the blade that split the sky and earth, created chaos, and created space, Jiang Tian was very calm. He slowly raised his arm. This also means that I can use my full strength without any worries. He stretched out his fair and translucent right hand like a girl's hand. There was no sense of danger. Under the disbelieving gaze of the crowd and amidst the exclamations of the crowd, he crushed the space of 10,000 feet. The blade radiance of the void piercer was firmly held in his hand, as if he was holding a fragile hemp stick. At this moment, countless cultivators in the ancient demon abyss, the Black Rock City, and the teleportation arrays thousands of miles away were all shocked. There was dead silence in the sky and on the ground. Rumble. Jiang Tian grabbed the void piercer with his ordinary right hand. Even though the surrounding space was broken, it couldn't move his hand at all. It didn't even leave a white mark. The vermilion bird divine body wasn't the strongest among Jiang Tian's divine bodies. In terms of defense, it was far inferior to the aged metal, thick earth and sea-calming ice god physique. However, transcendence was transcendence. It was on a different level of life, like a deity. Even if he didn't use his full power, he was still indestructible. How is that possible? Long Xingnan was extremely shocked. She felt that this scene was familiar. It was very similar to when he fought against her quasi-Dao artifact, the Dragon Slayer Xian Saber, on the 18 Island. But that was only a half-step Dao artifact. And now, the Void Piercer was already a real Dao artifact. It was many times more terrifying than the Dragon Slayer Xian Saber. More importantly, Jiang Tian obviously didn't use the power of his divine body. It was as if he was in a natural state. That's terrifying. That's a Dao artifact. It contains fragments of the Dao and can interfere with space. Ta Kong, Mingyi, and the others were so shocked that their eyes almost popped out. They had been with Jiang Tian for a long time, so of course they knew Jiang Tian's power. The divine plate had 9 transformations, and each transformation was a golden pellet, so there were 9 of them. Jiang Tian's golden cores were different from those of ordinary people. They were like galaxies and the number was also different. Besides, Jiang Tian already had 3 golden cores in the state of nascent soul and he had even formed a true seal of laws. They had seen too many Jiang Tian surpass the nascent soul level and they were a bit numb from shock. But they really didn't expect Jiang Tian to be so powerful. He was able to fight against a Dao artifact with his bare hands, which was equivalent to blocking an all-out attack from a soul formation grand cultivator with one hand. He was already a deity in the human world. Should we change the way we address Senior Tai Chu as grand cultivator? Qi Liqui's eyes widened as she murmured. Master, you're awesome. You're invincible. As for Ao Jiao, she seemed to be stunned for a moment before her face turned red with excitement. She waved her fists and cheered for Jiang Tian. That's a Dao artifact. It's a quasi-Dao artifact, a Dao artifact again. What's this kid made of? Does he have an indestructible body? Wu Shujian was startled as if he had seen a demon. He was a genius from the central fertile earth world. He was selected by the 100 Moons Academy and was nurtured with great care. He even managed to ascend to the top 20 of the war god list of the immortal ruins. Before this, he had countless admirers and followers. He had always treated them well. Even though he knew that he was inferior to Qing Aojuan, Luo Changsheng and the other monstrous geniuses, he still believed that he should be on the same level as them. And yet, compared to Jiang Tian, he felt extremely useless. He didn't even deserve to carry Jiang Tian's shoes. How could he possibly resist it? Yao Yu Fairy's cold face was also filled with astonishment. That was a Tao artifact. It had to be refined with the fruits of a soul formation grand cultivator's lifetime and contained the fragments of the grand Tao. The Dharma laws were above all other powers and the grand Tao was above the laws. No Dharma spells, divine powers, Dharma forms and nascent soul cultivators could compare to it. A full-powered attack was comparable to that of a soul formation grand cultivator. Besides, there were thousands of grand Tao and many Dharma laws. Any fragment of the grand Tao was extremely powerful, not to mention the fragment of the grand Tao of dimension contained in the air-piercing blade. It could be said that normal nascent soul cultivators were as vulnerable as tofu in front of the air-piercing blade. Even a half-soul formation cultivator wouldn't be able to withstand the attack of a Tao artifact. Chapter 1457. This lad is evil. Far away, the captain of the White Python Guards, Wu Huan, had an unprecedentedly serious expression. His eyes were filled with concern as he scanned the ancient demon abyss with his spiritual perception, not missing a single detail. The sect leaders of the 6 Hai Lan heavenly sects and even the leader of the Golden Crow Guards, Shen Chang, were slightly moved. But besides being surprised, he was more excited. So powerful. I haven't seen such a powerful cultivator in a long time. This time, I will have a great battle with him to refine my Tao heart and stimulate my bloodline and cultivation. Perhaps it will help me reach the soul formation realm. Shen Chang rubbed his chin as he clenched his fists even tighter. His deep and dignified eyes burst forth with a fiery fighting spirit. On the battlefield, Ghost Wolf's face, which was as cold as ice, was also filled with panic. He exclaimed, "Brat, what kind of Dharma access is this?" "This is called the Vajra Shield, Iron Shirt, and the 13 Guardians." Jiang Tian casually made up a lie. He was very relaxed. At this moment, he had passed the lightning tribulation, the third transformation of the divine disc, the phoenix golden core, the nascent soul, and his divine body were all perfect. He could finally give it his all. Next, he would suppress his opponent. Who cared about the gods and Buddhas in the sky? Everything would be swept away. Stop pretending to be mysterious. What 13 guardians? Break! Ghost Wolf roared. His black cloak fluttered without wind and extended into the void. Wherever it passed, the space shattered and was annihilated. This space turned into endless spiritual power and infused into the air piercer. Rumble. On the surface of the air piercer that was flowing with colorful lights, a bright and beautiful Tao pattern suddenly appeared. This was the trace of the great Tao, which involved the secrets of space. It was very mysterious and profound. The Tao was natural, and it had the charm of the truth of heaven and earth. These traces of the great Tao suddenly condensed and turned into rays of light that pierced towards Jiang Tian. Every ray of light was incomparably resplendent and translucent, reflecting resplendent light. It was very dazzling and magnificent. But any nascent soul realm cultivator who saw it would feel a sense of fear. It was as if their souls were being cut into pieces. Great Tao. When Ghost Wolf sensed the danger of Jiang Tian, he finally revealed his trump card and played it on the table. A Dharma artifact was made by a soul formation grand cultivator with his supreme Dharma fruit, so it must contain the power of the grand Tao. Even if it was just a fragment, no nascent soul cultivator could resist it. Qi! Qi! The sparkling and translucent threads wrapped around Jiang Tian and pierced through his body. They were like colorful poisonous snakes, beautiful but deadly. Wherever these threads passed, even the void distorted. Countless black holes appeared in space. Some of these black holes were pitch black, while others were multicolored. They were even emptier than a vacuum. They belonged to the true meaning of nothingness. Not even space existed. Die. Ghost Wolf's eyes were merciless as he growled. He was very certain. This Tao artifact had been pushed to its limits. Even the great Tao fragment within had been blasted out. Kang Taichu was dead for sure. But who would have thought? Between Jiang Tian's fingers and palms, a blazing red light suddenly erupted. This red light was like a red crystal. It was crystal clear and didn't contain any impurities, but it was rolling like tides and fluffy like light. Overall, it looked like a flame. Each wisp of red light was formed from countless fiery red runes. When combined together, each wisp of red light was a law. The true fire of the Red Sparrow. At this time, Jiang Tian's Red Sparrow golden core had already formed the nascent soul. The true fire of the Red Sparrow was left on the divine plate and it had been refined to the limit. Its power was incomparable to before. With the true fire of the Red Sparrow, it could create fire in the void and burn everything. It could refine the sky, burn the mountains and boil the oceans. Crack! 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 A series of crisp cracking sounds were heard. Under Ghost Wolf's gaze, not only did the translucent threads fail to penetrate the red light of Jiang Tian's true fire of the Red Sparrow, they were also burned inch by inch and were completely destroyed. If a real soul formation cultivator fought me with his natal Dharma artifact, I might need to be careful. But you're just a half-soul formation cultivator. You want to fight me with a Dharma artifact left by your ancestor? You're way too weak. Jiang Tian looked at him with disdain. His law was a supreme divine-level law, comparable to the Grand Tao. And the Ghost Wolf's air-piercing blade only contained fragments of the Grand Tao. This Grand Tao was incomplete and only suitable for the South Gate Galaxy. It couldn't be used everywhere, which was equivalent to being broken on top of being broken. Such a Grand Tao was nothing in Jiang Tian's eyes. It didn't live up to its name at all. He reached out and countless true fire laws of the Red Sparrow appeared in his hand. Even the tiniest particles were runes. The runes formed a law, like a supreme scripture or a chapter of the Grand Tao. Rumble. Those laws formed the true fire of the Red Sparrow, which was extremely fierce and powerful, but it could be controlled by Jiang Tian. Wherever it went, it would move according to his will. It was quite mysterious. The vermilion bird true fire spread out and swept up. It was like a fire dragon flying across the sky, like a fierce tiger pouncing out, bringing with it an exceptional killing aura. In the blink of an eye, the sparkling and translucent spatial light was burned into nothingness. Moreover, it followed the spatial threads and burned towards the Ghost Wolf. Oh no! Ghost Wolf was startled. He was alarmed and panicked. He was like a fish in the sea and a crow in the sky. He immediately disappeared into the dimension, dragging the air-piercing blade with him. But this time, Jiang Tian wouldn't let him go no matter what. He would kill or capture him alive even if he had to go to heaven or hell. Submit, or die. You only have two choices. Purple lightning flashed in Jiang Tian's eyes and pierced through the dimension. Then, the 10-foot divine disk behind him spun and the galaxy-like Kunpeng golden core shone brightly. He used the extreme speed of the Kunpeng and turned into a ray of light that pierced through the sky. Every step he took caused the dimension to tremble. In an instant, he punched out 1,000 miles away. Bang! The dimension was shattered and the path of life and death was separated by Jiang Tian's punch. Ghost Wolf, who was hiding in the dimension, suddenly flew out with a shrill cry. His cheeks were smashed and the black feathers on his black cloak fluttered. He was like a black cannonball, crashing through 3 mountains. Kill! Rocks flew everywhere as Ghost Wolf soared into the air. His expression was extremely grim as he thrust his saber at Jiang Tian. Whoosh! The boundless might of the Tao artifact filled the area within a radius of 100 miles. Fragments of the great Tao that could destroy the dimension extended from the tip of the blade. An extremely thin dimensional tunnel appeared between him and Jiang Tian. Along the tunnel, colorful dimensional cracks extended in all directions like tentacles. Wherever the dimensional cracks reached, the sky was twisted and torn, the earth was shattered and the mountains were disintegrated. Even golden core demonic beasts were torn apart in an instant. This was another level of power that belonged to the great Tao. It was beyond the ordinary laws and nothing could stop it. But in the face of this destructive blade, Jiang Tian was still extremely calm and even a little contemptuous. He waved his fingers. Whoosh! A flaming long blade swept through everything like a volcanic eruption and the roar of the sea. The dimension within a radius of dozens of miles was burned to pieces, revealing a huge chaotic hole. Countless dimensional storms surged towards the absolute void. Heaven and earth began to collapse at this moment. The earth and mountains danced and the sky fell. Countless strands of heaven and earth yuan qi, with the void between the two of them as the center, surged and poured into the black hole like a dragon. It was as if the entire world was about to collapse at this moment. This was a kind of great destruction. Everything was dying and collapsing. The power of space tearing and twisting was unstoppable. Chapter 1458. Boom! When Jiang Tian's flaming blade hit the Grand Tao fragment of the air-piercing blade, it was as if thousands of thunderbolts had struck. The entire ancient demon abyss shook violently, as if a devil's mouth was opening and closing, trying to swallow the sun, moon, and stars. Everything within a few hundred miles of the core of the explosion was reduced to dust. Mountains, rivers, trees, beasts and even cultivators were all reduced to ashes. Luckily, Jiang Tian had purposely distanced himself from Ta Kong and the others who were watching the battle. Otherwise, they would have been killed by the shockwaves. Terrifying, this is too terrifying. The entire Yingzhou world was extremely vast and everyone felt the violent tremors. Countless cultivators were shocked and their hands were shaking. All golden core cultivators were like clay statues in front of the destructive power of the soul formation realm. They couldn't even withstand a single blow. I finally understand why soul formation realm cultivators are called grand cultivators. Ta Kong and Mingi smiled wryly and looked envious. Such a disturbance can really change the world. He's invincible. Ao Jiao, Qi Liqui, and even Long Xingnan and Yao Yu Fairy were speechless. Even Wu Shujian was sweating profusely. Even though he was on the God of War list, he belonged to the second tier after all. He was still incomparable to someone like Ghost Wolf, who had experienced hundreds of battles. He had only seen such power a few times in his entire life. The destructive power caused his heart to palpitate and his Tao heart to tremble. On the battlefield, Jiang Tian and Ghost Wolf separated immediately after the clash. Ghost Wolf and his air-piercing blade flew back dozens of miles. Half of his body was burnt black and there were spiderweb-like cracks. One of his arms exploded and only bones were left. What was more terrifying was that there were cracks on his air-piercing blade. It was very unstable and seemed to be about to collapse. A Tao treasure. This was a Tao treasure that had been refined by a soul formation grand cultivator and contained grand Tao fragments. Yet, it was almost destroyed by Jiang Tian's flaming blade. And Jiang Tian stood where he was and didn't move at all. He was like a pillar that supported the heavens and was unshakable. His clothes were spotless, and his black hair was like a waterfall. He seemed to be calm and composed, and it was obvious that he possessed a crushing momentum. Run! At this moment, Ghost Wolf's heart was palpitating and his face was filled with horror. He was a half-soul formation cultivator who could defeat all the nascent soul cultivators, while Jiang Tian was only a nascent soul cultivator who was essentially a golden core cultivator. And yet, he had been crushed so miserably by Jiang Tian. At this moment, Ghost Wolf had no choice but to admit that his assassination mission had failed. In fact, the Ghost Wolf was best at sneak attacks, catching people off guard and catching them off guard. Only in this way could the weak defeat the strong and obtain a great victory with a small price. But now, It had evolved into a direct confrontation, and he no longer had any advantage. He unleashed the power of the Dark Crow bloodline and quickly disappeared into the void. In the blink of an eye, he had crossed thousands of miles and appeared above the Black Rock City. Trying to escape? You don't stand a chance. On the other hand, Jiang Tian did not hesitate to use the Kuan Peng's extreme speed, transforming into a golden stream of light that chased after him. Golden Crow. White Python. Dark Crow. Third Guard. Cultivators of the 6 heavenly sects of the Hailan world, listen to my command. Far away, the leader of the Golden Crow Guards, Shen Cheng, said coldly, Kang Te-Chu has the upper hand. Everyone, attack with all your strength and kill him. He had never thought that Jiang Tian would be so powerful. He was just an ant from the abandoned world, but he was so powerful. If he didn't get rid of him, he would be a great threat. Yes. Following his order, 60,000 cultivators above the Golden Core level and at least 300 nascent soul heavenly lords shot into the sky like supersonic fighter jets. With thunderous roars, they created turbulence in the air and flew towards the ancient demon abyss in an army formation. At this time, Jiang Tian had already severely injured Ghost Wolf several times above the Black Rock City. Every time Ghost Wolf escaped into space, Jiang Tian would always use the Kuan Peng's extreme speed to chase after him. When he reappeared, Jiang Tian would punch and kick him, breaking his bones and tendons, causing him to bleed profusely. For a moment, Ghost Wolf screamed and blood stained the sky. Black feathers danced and exploded in the sky. Ghost Wolf was completely suppressed by Jiang Tian. How can this guy control such a terrifying dimension law? Ghost Wolf was terrified. His Dark Crow bloodline was certainly powerful, but it couldn't be compared to the Kuan Peng bloodline. His dimension law was also much cruder. It was impossible for him to hurt or severely injure Jiang Tian. As for Ghost Wolf's counterattack, it was also useless. At this moment, Jiang Tian's Red Bird Golden Core had finished the nascent soul tribulation, so he didn't need to hide any of his strength. There were too many methods and divine powers to restrain him. Whether it was the law of aged metal blocking it, the law of vermilion bird true fire burning it, or the law of Tao Tai directly annihilating and devouring it, they were all successful. Kang Te-Chu, Ghost Wolf was covered in blood. His bones and tendons were broken and he even spat out pieces of his internal organs. At this moment, he revealed his true form. The Dark Crow cloak and his body were one and almost all of his feathers were falling off. This was the result of his Dharma power fading and his level falling. Let me go. He flapped his wings and screamed, trying to escape. He was both shocked and furious. As one of the top 3 assassins in the ruins of deity, he was proficient in dimension escape arts. He could even escape unscathed when facing the siege of a soul formation cultivator. He had never suffered such a loss. Besides, he was an abandoned person from a barren world. That place was very barren and there were no cultivation arts. It was like a remote village. Ahem. I can let you go. Kneel down and surrender and form a divine soul contract with me. Jiang Tian's eyes were cold. He fought steadily and casually. Ghost Wolf couldn't escape at all. That's right. He flashed 1,000 miles away, but he was blocked by Jiang Tian and kicked back. Swish! In the end, Jiang Tian performed the sea calming ice god's law and completely froze and imprisoned an area of 100 miles. Ghost Wolf was completely restrained and couldn't move at all. Surrender or die. This is your last chance. Jiang Tian snickered and gave the last ultimatum. At this moment, he only needed to control the dimension to tear apart Ghost Wolf's body and nascent soul. The captain of the Dark Crow Guards, a half-soul formation cultivator and the top assassin, Ghost Wolf, has been killed. This time, Senior Tai Chu will be famous in the ruins of deity. Senior Tai Chu is too powerful. He's going to turn the tables around. Ghost Wolf is going to surrender. While Qi Jiui, Sword Master Outyen, Zhang Qingyang, and the rest of the authorities in Black Rock City who supported Jiang Tian were smiling upon seeing this. I should be the one to say that. Kang Teichu, surrender or die. It's your choice. There's no third way. Gue Lang, on the other hand, laughed arrogantly. His eyes were extremely vicious as he roared, look around you. Look at the Yingzhou world. Look at how many cultivators and how many ships have arrived. I, Ghost Wolf, am an expert assassin. Of course, I know that even a lion will try its best to catch a rabbit. Do you think that if I didn't have enough backup, if I didn't have a chance to escape, I would take the risk to kill you? What cultivators and battleships? Qi Jiui and the others were still confused. Suddenly. Woo! Woo! At first, they only saw an ancient battleship that was a few hundred feet long. But right after that, a second ship, a third ship, a fourth ship. They tore through space and shot out in a single file, and they appeared in the horizon in a dense and boundless manner, filling up everyone's field of vision. The densely packed interstellar battleships were like an iron barrier. They surrounded Blackrock City and even the entire ancient demon abyss. Chapter 1459. This battle formation was too shocking. Many ancient battleships flew across the sky at a speed 10 or 100 times faster than the speed of sound. Those ancient battleships were made of bronze, purple copper, gold and crystals. They were a few thousand feet long and many times larger than aircraft carriers. There were countless runes and some obscure Dao patterns carved on them. They were indestructible and there were traces of swords and sabers left behind. It was apparent that they had survived hundreds of battles. There were countless generals and soldiers in armor standing on the battleships. Some of these cultivators were wearing silver python scale armor, some were wearing golden crow armor that looked like it was made of gold, and some were wearing black robes and bird head masks. Their capes fluttered in the wind, and their horns were ferocious. Almost all of them were at the Golden Core realm, and their eyes were filled with bloodthirst. Many powerful energies rushed to the front of the battleships. They were the sect masters and elders of the 6 heavenly sects from the Hylon world. Each of them was a nascent soul cultivator and there were more than 300 of them. More than 300 nascent soul heavenly lords and essence chi surged like an ocean. They flashed across the sky and tore the sky apart. Even the sky seemed to be shaking, as if it were about to collapse. The entire Yingzhou world was shaking violently. Mountains collapsed and rivers flowed. In countless cities, ordinary people and cultivators also looked up at the sky. This. Qi Jiui stood above Black Stone City and was speechless, as if he had seen a demon. But that wasn't the end. In the end, a giant battleship 10,000 feet long appeared in the sky. The warship was like an enormous golden crow, seemingly forged from black gilt. Light flickered, and it was sturdy to the extreme. Its enormous wings stretched across the sky, and each feather was a warehouse. Inside were supreme cultivators overseeing them. There were at least tens of thousands of them. The most eye-catching part was the bow of the ship. It was like the head of a ferocious bird. It opened its giant mouth and there were fangs spewing out fire, as if it could burn the sky. When they saw the giant ship, Qi Jiui and many other incontinent cultivators, including Zhang Qingyang and Ao Tian Swordmaster, who were protecting Jiang Tian, lost their composure. They were terrified and almost turned into statues. That's the symbol of the Golden Crow Guard. The personal guards of the Ruins Emperor Palace, as well as the White Python and Dark Crow Guards, have been mobilized in full force. How could this be? I shut down all the teleportation arrays. How did they get in? Furthermore, I've sent cultivators to monitor the various strategic locations. Yet, no one noticed such a large-scale invasion. Qi Jiui's entire body was trembling. Even his teeth were chattering. Father, I heard that they have developed a kind of heaven-deceiving formation rune. The warship can be hidden in space, and it is impossible to detect it. It seems like it has already been used on these 3 armies. Qi Liqui flew over and stood behind Qi Jiui. Her beautiful face was stern, and her battle intent was boiling. She was ready to fight at any moment. Her Dharma idol burst forth, and a huge ancient parasol tree appeared. On it, there was a fire phoenix burning the sky. It let out a long cry, and its momentum was astonishing. There was nothing much to say. A great battle was unavoidable. They were already close to Jiang Tian. This was something that the ruins of immortality could not tolerate. It would be a bloody suppression, like a warning to others. Tens of thousands of golden core cultivators and 300 nascent soul heavenly lords. There are also 2 quasi-mighty half-step soul formation cultivators. At this moment, Long Pejuan, Long Xingnan, and the others had just rushed out of the ancient demon abyss. When they saw this scene, their faces turned pale, as though they had seen demons. Dark Crow Guards. White Python Guards. Golden Crow Guards. They were the elite army under the direct command of the Ruins Emperor Palace. They were high and mighty, looking down on the galaxy. They suppressed the worlds of Alpha Centauri and were invincible. No faction could stop them. Any one of them could easily flatten a second-grade dimensional world. What black dragon sect? What violent demonic beasts? They were nothing in front of them. And now, the 3 armies had joined forces to descend to the lower world to kill Jiang Tian. This was unprecedented. Ao Jiao was also pale with fright. Despair flashed in her eyes. She gritted her teeth and said, "Senior Grand Primordium is our last hope. Let's go together and open a bloody path for Senior Grand Primordium to leave. At least there is a glimmer of hope. However, I hope that Senior Grand Primordium will avenge us when he is strong enough." Ao Jiao, don't be so nervous. Bai Zhe flicked his sleeves and looked at her with disdain. Master didn't even use 1/10 of his power. Humph. What bullshit Golden Crow Guards. They are just a bunch of birdmen. Capture them and eat them. So many golden cores. Damn it. It's enough for me to eat for a few years. I can store them. The large black dog's saliva was dripping down, his eyes filled with excitement. Lunatics. A bunch of lunatics. Long Xingnan mocked them hysterically. This is the personal army of the Ruins Emperor Palace. Even the top nascent soul cultivators are no match for Xinchang and Wu Huan. Not to mention, there are many ancient ships and large-scale offensive Dharma artifacts. A single cultivator will never be able to fight against a large-scale cultivator army. Even if you are a soul formation cultivator, they can exhaust you to death. Besides, all of them are natives of the South Gate star system. They followed the Ruins Emperor to occupy the ruins of immortality tens of thousands of years ago. Their cultivation techniques are compatible with this world and perfectly compatible with the laws and Great Tao. They are not like us, who wander the universe and change the environment. So, their cultivation techniques are better. Their power is 10 times or 100 times stronger than the same level of cultivation. It's not something that we, the descendants of the ancient earth and immortal lands, can compare to. Kang Te-Chu will definitely die this time. Her eyes were firm, as if Jiang Tian was already a dead man. There was no chance of him turning the tables. Retreat. Get out of the battlefield. Wu Shujian was frightened. He pulled Fairy Yao Yu and retreated silently, distancing themselves from Jiang Tian and the others. 3 half-step soul formation generals, 300 nascent soul heavenly lords, tens of thousands of golden core cultivators and hundreds of ancient ships were enough to destroy this continent. Even if you were a soul formation cultivator, you couldn't stop them from pouncing on you like locusts. There were too many of them, and they weren't locusts. Each of them was very powerful. It was rare for the 3 guards to be mobilized. Clearly, the Ruins Emperor's palace was determined to kill. Next, it would be an indiscriminate attack. The entire Black Rock City, the ancient demon abyss, and even half of the Yingzhou world would be reduced to a wasteland. Kang Te-Chu, kneel and submit. At that moment, Spectral Wolf had been completely locked down by Jiang Tian's sea calming ice god laws. However, he still seemed to have something to rely on as he roared smugly. If you know what's good for you and let me go, I might give you a chance. I will plead for you in the ruins Emperor's palace and spare your wretched life. I will make you the highest-ranking servant and follower of the ruins Emperor. I stand by my words. No one can resist the ruins Emperor. Sheng Emperor Zhongli can't, Eo Emperor Wuchang can't. You can't either. Now, do you understand why I said that? The key to being human is to recognize your own strength. Don't have any fantasies or unrealistic thoughts. You are ultimately a human. You are ultimately an ant. And the ruins Emperor is too powerful. His subordinates are too strong and too many. Chapter 1460. Sizzle. 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 Beams of light were shot from the giant ships towards Jiangtian. That was a kind of Dharma law shot out by a large true artifact. It was as thick as a pillar and was extremely dangerous. It could hurt soul formation grand cultivators and kill nascent soul heavenly lords. Jiang Tian spread out the forbidden area and disappeared into the void like a flickering light. Are you scared? Ant. Ghost Wolf snickered and also flashed into the sky, taking the chance to escape. As for the place where Jiang Tian was just now, when the beam of light shot over, it instantly blasted out numerous pitch-black holes. A terrifying spatial collapse appeared, and it was completely reduced to nothingness. The moment they discovered that the Golden Crow army and the other 3 guards were attacking, under Qi Jiuyi's orders, the Black Rock City's many giant guardian formations had already been activated like blooming lotus flowers. Azure light filled the sky, black light flashed, divine beasts roared and fiery phoenixes soared to the sky. Each of them represented a powerful nascent soul Dharma array that could withstand the attacks of nascent soul cultivators and soul formation cultivators. In the end, 18 layers of Dharma arrays were activated and covered the Black Rock City like colorful shields. Those 18 layers of Dharma arrays were said to be impregnable. They had been built by top array grandmasters with countless heavenly treasures. They were able to guard the pass. For thousands of years, the fierce beasts in the ancient demon abyss hadn't been able to get out. They had been suppressed and trapped by those powerful Dharma arrays. But then, under the bright beams of light, the 18 layers of light barriers were instantly torn apart and pierced through like pieces of paper. Many strange phenomena let out cries of unwillingness before they were destroyed. The city walls and fortresses that could withstand the continuous attacks of a golden core cultivator crumbled like sand sculptures that had been struck by a heavy hammer. They were reduced to dust and nothingness. Black Rock City, which was like the Great Wall surrounding the ancient demon abyss, was instantly torn apart. The beams of light didn't stop after destroying the Black Rock City. They penetrated 1,000 miles into the ground, leaving many terrifying abysses and gullies, as if they were going to penetrate the entire continent. At that moment, it was as if huge suns were exploding one after another. Blinding light drowned out everything within a radius of 500 kilometers, making the sky as bright as day. It was resplendent and dazzling. Countless cultivators and mortals from the Yingzhou continent, both inside and outside of the Black Rock City, disappeared from the world before they could even let out a scream. Even golden core cultivators couldn't withstand it for more than a second. Their bodies, golden cores and divine souls were completely destroyed. Rumble. Without wasting any time, countless beams of light shot out from the ship, indiscriminately covering a radius of 1,000 li around Jiangtian, interweaving with each other and leaving no room for escape. This was a gorgeous, beautiful, and extremely tragic scene. Some of the cultivators who were lucky enough to survive were terrified. They tried to escape on their flying swords, ships, chariots, cloud towers, and other flying devices, but they could not get out at all. They were like moths flying into a flame. The moment they came into contact with the light beam, they exploded one after another, turning into a rain of light that scattered down like fireworks blooming in the air. Every time the light beam exploded, countless people would die. Flying swords would turn into molten steel, chariots would turn into ash, flesh and blood would dry up. Everything would turn into ash and smoke. This is a complete annihilation. The ruins of immortality is too ruthless. Qi Jiui had the dark parasol divine tree protecting him, allowing him to withstand the light beam's attack. He was only covered in dust and was not seriously injured. But when he came to his senses and saw the countless cultivators of the Yingzhou continent being destroyed and his Tao orthodoxy about to be severed, he could not help but feel defeated. He fell to the ground and was on the brink of tears. Ruins of immortality. Ruins Emperor, you old dog. Today, if the living beings of the Yingzhou continent aren't wiped out, we'll fight you to the end. Qi Liqui roared tragically as tears of blood flowed down his face. He was in so much pain that he wished he was dead. It was a massacre. The 3 guards of the ruins Emperor's palace were merciless to the extreme. They were haughty and arrogant, like gods that wanted to crush ants. There was no communication at all and they went straight for extermination. Now you know the consequences of resisting the ruins of immortality. In the crowd, Long Xingnan shouted coldly with a look of mockery. Kang Teichu, Qi Jiui, I've said it before. You have no right to resist. Now, you finally understand how powerful the ruins of immortality are. The #1 heaven sect of the desert world, the Celestial Peak sect, had 100,000 cultivators and a Tao field spanning 500 kilometers. They even had 5 half-step soul formation cultivators. Yet, a single talisman decree from the ruins Emperor crushed their 100,000 feet tall peaks. Their Tao field sank 100 kilometers into the ground, and their 100,000 disciples were reduced to meat paste. Not a single one was left. Kang Teichu, do you think we are all cowards? Do you think you are the only hero? You are wrong. In this world, judging the situation, clearly recognizing the strength of others, and bowing to absolute power is wisdom. Acting rashly for a moment will only consign you to eternal damnation. Bitch, you are merely a defeated opponent. You are just a human pet. Shut up. If you dare spout any more nonsense, I'll kill you. The large black dog growled in frustration as he sent her flying with a swipe of his paw. He had the bloodline of the purple gold true dragon. In fact, his bloodline was much more powerful than the bloodlines of Bai Zai, Ao Jiao, Long Pejuan, Qi Liqui, and Ta Kong. He was hit by the light beam 3 times, but he was only charred black. He was sent flying, but he did not suffer any heavy injuries. However, the others might not be so lucky. Bai Zai's arm was broken. He was in so much pain that his face turned pale. Ao Jiao spat out blood. Her chest caved in, almost injuring her core. Her void-stepping technique was extremely fast. She barely dodged, but she was also in a very sorry state. Her clothes were burnt. Long Pejuan was the most miserable. This peerless ferocious demon who had once dominated the Yingzhou, North Sea, Dragon Gate, and Penglai world, forcing many sects and clans to bow their heads. He was invincible and possessed the bloodline of the primordial Tyrannosaurus dragon. However, his body was smashed to pieces and he died. After a wave of attacks, many battleships stopped firing. They stretched across the sky, forming an oval-shaped encirclement that surrounded Qi Jiui and half of Black Rock City in the middle. After thousands of attacks from the god-killing light cannons, Kang Teichu will definitely die, even if he escapes into other dimensions. Meanwhile, Ghost Wolf had already appeared on one of the battleships of the Dark Crow Guards. He was still frightened and chuckled. That black battleship was 1,000 feet long. It seemed to be equipped with a dimensional array. It appeared and disappeared from time to time. Space ripples were strong and it could hide in another dimension at any time. What? Has Senior Taichu died? Everyone was frightened. They finally realized that the god-killing light cannons were a super true artifact that could go beyond the limits of dimensions and kill soul formation overlords. Of course he died. He's just an ant in the lower worlds. That true artifact of mass destruction has killed dozens of soul formation cultivators. How could Kang Teichu resist it? Wu Huan, the commander of the White Python Guards, snickered with disdain. Congratulations, Commander Shen Chang, Commander Wu Huan, Commander Ghost Wolf and the Divine Generals. You've won the operation in the lower worlds and killed Kang Te-Chu. I'm sure Prince Chiu Ming will reward you handsomely. Jing Shimin, the sect master of the Tao-seeking sect, one of the 6 heavenly sects, stood on his sword with his sleeves fluttering in the wind. His face was handsome and he seemed to be a top nascent soul cultivator. Right then, he bowed and prayed respectfully in front of the commanders of the 3 guards, as if he were their grandchildren. Kang Te-Chu might be talented, but he's from a remote and desolate planet after all. How can he compare to the South Gate 2 stars? A beautiful woman in a palace dress said with a smile. Her name was Shizhen Xiang, the sect master of the heavenly incense sect in the lower worlds. She was famous for her beauty and her power. She went to the lower worlds under Prince Chiu Ming's order to kill Jiang Tian with the 3 guards. Even though she was looking down on Jiang Tian, her heart was filled with fear and relief. Kang Te-Chu was too evil. The best way to deal with him was to use powerful true artifacts to kill him from afar. Nobody was confident of winning in a head-on clash. Chapter 1461. Kang Te-Chu is quite talented, but he's too arrogant. In the end, it cost Qingqing's life. It's no wonder. He's an abandoned person from the wasteland. I heard that he came from the desolate solar system. His strength is invincible in that backward wasteland. He has never encountered any setbacks along the way, so of course he has developed an arrogant personality. How would he know the vastness of the universe and the cosmos? Sigh. It seems like cultivation isn't as simple as a smooth path. A sword is sharpened by grinding. Kang Te-Chu is a bad example. Some of the sect masters and elders of the other heavenly sects mocked, some were indifferent and arrogant, some gloated, some had ulterior motives and some were puzzled. What a pity. Prince Chiu Ming has given the kill order. We can only kill him instantly. Shen Chang, the captain of the Golden Crow Guards, scanned the void with his divine consciousness and shook his head regretfully. Otherwise, I would like to spar with this kid with his talent. A life-and-death battle can temper my cultivation, stabilize my Tao heart and elevate it to the limit. Maybe he can even help me break through to the soul formation realm. Wu Huan raised his hand and pointed at Bai Zai, Ao Jiao, and Qi Liqui as if he was looking at ants. He said coldly, you were originally the subjects of the Ruins Emperor. You should be loyal to him, but you were bewitched by an ant from the lower world. You degenerated and joined him to betray the Ruins Emperor. Your sins are unforgivable. Now, surrender and follow me to the Ruins Emperor's palace to receive your punishment. If you come to your senses and repent sincerely, I will speak to the Ruins Emperor's palace. I will speak up for you in the Ruins Emperor's palace. If Prince Chiu Ming shows mercy, you can be the lowest class of slaves. At the very least, you will have a chance of survival. His tone was filled with incomparable arrogance, as if a god had bestowed him with a blessing. Making the princess and emperor of the lower realm his servant was already a great favor. Well, Qi Jiui hesitated and looked troubled. Although he thought highly of Jiang Tian, it was only because of Jiang Tian's growth, not because of his current strength. If Jiang Tian was given a century or even 10 years, Jiang Tian's talent was superb. Coupled with his diligent cultivation, he naturally had the right to wrestle with the Ruins Emperor. However, he never expected the upper realm to secretly set up a teleportation array in this world, secretly transporting the 3 guards of the Ruins Emperor's palace and the 6 High Lan heavenly sects over. This was equivalent to Jiang Tian being strangled by a group of giants when he was still a baby in swaddling clothes. Father, do we have a choice? Haven't we been the lowest level of servants all these years? Haven't the Dragon Gate and the Yingzhou world been bullied enough by them? Qi Liqui wept blood and cried like a cuckoo. However, her words were resounding, flickering with an unyielding fighting spirit. Fight! Even if they had to fight to the last person to inherit the last wish of the Grand Primordium. The demon race will never be slaves. Ao Jiao's beautiful eyes were red. Her gaze was murderous and filled with boundless determination. Her flood dragon bloodline erupted as her body rumbled. An aura surged into the sky as a vitality flood dragon coiled behind her. She wanted to fight to the death with her opponent. Fight! Fight! Freedom is more precious than life. Only by fighting can we obtain a chance of survival. We don't fear death. We won't be slaves. Ta Kong, Mingi, Bai Zhe, and even the most cowardly black dog roared in unison. They took a step forward as their fighting spirit was extremely vigorous. It was as if they could hold back 10,000 men alone. Stubborn. I think you won't shed tears until you see the coffin. Die. White Python guard Wu Huan snorted coldly. His gaze was ferocious and bloodthirsty as he pointed his finger. At that moment, hundreds of battleships appeared behind him. If the large-scale god-vanquishing true weapons were to be activated, they would instantly be reduced to ashes. However, he preferred to kill them personally. Seeing their blood splattered, their flesh and blood splattered, and their souls wailing in pain gave him an indescribable sense of satisfaction. It was just like how some assassins preferred to kill people with cold weapons just to experience the wonderful feeling of the blade cutting into their skin. Boom! As Wu Huan pointed his finger, a huge white python that was 10,000 feet long opened its bloody mouth like a small mountain and pounced towards everyone. At that moment, no one could stop it. No one dared to stop it. Wu Huan has the bloodline of the sky-swallowing white python and is half a step away from the soul formation stage. His sky-swallowing laws are extremely condensed and magnificent. They can only die regretfully. Countless incontinent cultivators watched this scene from afar and wailed in their hearts. They lowered their heads in despair and shame. More people turned their heads away, unwilling to watch this scene. Once Qi Liqui, Ao Jiao, and the others died, it meant that the Dragon Gate, Incontinent and other worlds fell into the hands of the ruins of deity again. It meant that the seeds of resistance and the hope of freedom were all extinguished. Kill! Qi Liqui, Ao Jiao, Ta Kong, Minghe, Bai Zhe, and the big black dog were not afraid at all. Instead, they shouted angrily and unleashed their divine powers and dharma forms, rushing towards the sky-swallowing white python. But in the eyes of everyone, they were so small in front of the dharma forms that were 10,000 feet long. They were like chickens in front of Mount Tai, hitting a rock with an egg. They were like moths flying into a flame. There was no other outcome other than being destroyed. It was tragic and tragic. Wu Huan, the head of the White Python Guards, was half a step away from the soul formation stage. He was a terrifying existence that could shake the ruins of deity with a stomp of his feet. Even the elites on the God of War list would have to avoid him and not dare to fight him head-on. Qi Liqui and the others were just courting death by rushing up. They just wanted to die a less ugly death. Senior, thank you for saving the AO family and the Dragon Gate world from disaster. It's a pity that I can't fight alongside you in this life. I'm still willing to follow in your footsteps in my next life and fight the world again. Ao Jiao's tall and slender body was surrounded by mighty dragons. Her aura surged as she rushed towards the sky-swallowing white python. Her hair fluttered in the wind and her face was beautiful. At this moment, she looked very sad and beautiful. Crystalline tears of blood were like agates and rubies, sprinkling in the air. She had never cried since she was sensible. She did not cry when her father died in battle. She did not cry when the world fell. She did not cry when she was sold as a human cauldron. But at this moment, she was crying. Why was the world so unfair? Why did good people always die so quickly? He, Kang Te-chu, was like a shining star. He went against the heavens and fought for justice. He fought to save all the worlds and faced the strong cultivators of the ruins of deity with his own strength. But now, he had fallen. He had died and his Tao had disappeared. At this moment, countless cultivators of Hai Lan and the ruins of deity laughed wildly. Countless cultivators of Hai Lan and the lower worlds clenched their fists and gritted their teeth with tears in their eyes. Countless onlookers shook their heads in disdain. Just as the sky-swallowing white python was about to swallow everyone. Suddenly, a translucent finger appeared out of nowhere. The finger stretched across the sky, pressing down the head of the giant python that could swallow the heavens and swallow the earth. It stopped in front of Ao Jiao, unable to move an inch forward. Enough. You killed civilians in my world, destroyed cities, killed my old servant Long Pajuan, and now you want to kill my disciples. Do you think I, Kang Taechu, am easy to bully? A calm and cold voice resounded in the sky. Hearing this, Ao Jiao's body trembled. She looked back and saw a young man covered in blood standing next to her with one hand behind his back. The young man's clothes were torn, revealing a chest that was as crystalline as a jade leopard and full of explosive power. Wounds that were deep to the bone covered his body. There were also rays of law light lingering around his body. Those rays of light were formed by countless small light runes. The power of law was circulating continuously, as if it was going to crack his body and explode. At this moment, his figure was very miserable and disheveled. But in Ao Jiao's eyes, he was so tall, even taller than a 10,000-foot tall mountain. He firmly protected her under his wings and did not hurt her at all. He was like a lone wolf fighting a tiger and a lion. Although he was seriously injured, his aura was not weaker and was still full of killing intent. It was Jiang Tian. Chapter 1462. Senior, Ao Jiao's voice was dry and she couldn't believe it. That was the God-destroying light cannon. It could easily kill a nascent soul heavenly lord and severely injure a soul formation grand cultivator. It could even penetrate dimensions and destroy dimensional laws. And yet, Jiang Tian had survived. At this moment, Qi Jiui and Qi Liqui widened their eyes as if they had seen a ghost. Even Long Xingnan cried out in surprise. He's only a nascent soul cultivator. Even though he doesn't have a nascent soul golden core, defeating a half-soul formation cultivator is already his limit. How could he withstand the attack of the God-destroying light cannon? He's not human. Has the information been wrong? He's not a guest from Earth at all. He's a divine fetus from the central galaxy in the outer space. Seeing this, Wu Shujian, who had retreated to the back to watch, was so frightened that he almost fell from the high school. Fairy Yao Yu's face turned pale as well. Her impression of Ling Yun was refreshed once again. What was the God-destroying light cannon? For example, it was like a nuclear weapon in this world. It was the ultimate weapon that could kill a soul formation overlord. Even the sword god of the Emperor Palace would have to avoid it. What was Jiang Tian? He was a nascent soul cultivator and a peak stage nascent soul cultivator. He could suppress a half-soul formation cultivator, which was equivalent to a transcendent grandmaster on Earth. A transcendent grandmaster could only die in front of a nuclear weapon. Everyone's mind was in a mess. They did not expect that Jiang Tian could survive. Not even the God-destroying light cannon can kill him. Wu Huan stopped his Dharma form and was shocked. It was already inconceivable that Jiang Tian could withstand the God-destroying light cannon, but with such a horrifying indiscriminate attack, he would definitely be severely injured, and his battle prowess would drop drastically. How could he resist his Dharma form under such circumstances? Even though he hadn't used all his strength, it was enough to destroy a mountain and kill all life within a few hundred miles. Evil, it's too evil. Even Shin Chang couldn't stay calm. Ghost Wolf was even more cautious. He sent a message to the Dark Crow guards with his immortal will. That was a tough nut to crack. Today, all of you will die here. Jiang Tian's gaze swept across the broken walls, scorched earth, and flames below. A cold light burst out from his eyes as a raging fury slowly filled his heart. Using battle to nurture battle and excavating all resources naturally had its benefits. Attacking and defending in an orderly manner, fighting steadily and surely. However, there was one unavoidable drawback, and that was that the battlefield would always be within one's own territory, and it was easy for the cultivators and commoners there to be affected. But Jiang Tian was not an invader. Instead, he was a liberator. For example, Qi Jiui, Ao Feng, Takong, Mingyi, and the other cultivators that followed him were loyal, brave, and skilled in battle. They were willing to go through fire and water for Jiang Tian. To a certain extent, Jiang Tian already regarded the cultivators and mortals here as his own people. They supported him and he had to protect them. But now, the Yingzhou world was devastated. Countless cultivators and mortals had died. This was a disaster, and it was too tragic. Kang Taichu, you'd better give up and surrender. There are 100,000 cultivators, as many as the Golden Core cultivators and 300 nascent soul cultivators. Do you think you can escape? A heavenly sect elder from the aquamarine world came out to persuade him to surrender. He was a nascent soul cultivator and thought highly of himself. His eyes were full of disdain as if he was looking at an ant. Noisy. Jiang Tian flicked his finger. No one saw clearly what kind of Abhijna Jiang Tian had unleashed. The elder didn't even have time to scream before his body exploded and turned into a rain of flesh. Blood filled the sky and even his nascent soul was shattered into countless pieces. Everyone was shocked, and their hair stood on end. They all kept silent. Killing a nascent soul cultivator with a finger. This brat's strength was too strong. You're just a nascent soul cultivator. I, Kang Taichu, have killed countless of you. It's not your turn to be presumptuous here. Jiang Tian's eyes were cold and he said coldly, everyone, you're all going to die here today. You think you can kill all of us here with just you alone? Have you eaten too many elixirs? Do you know that I can kill you with one hand? Wu Huan was still calm. He glanced at Jiang Tian and sneered. No matter how powerful he is, he's just a golden core cultivator after all. He can only kill normal nascent soul cultivators, but he's still incomparable to a real half-soul formation cultivator. A divine general from the White Python Guards said coldly. He rubbed his fists and was eager to fight. In fact, even though Jiang Tian had just been hit by the god-destroying light cannons, he was still alive and could kill a nascent soul heavenly lord with one finger. He had displayed shocking strength. However, in the eyes of many people, Jiang Tian was still a soft persimmon that was easy to bully. After all, he must have been severely injured after being hit by such a terrifying light cannon. He wouldn't be able to hold on for long, so they should kill him while he was weak. By then, Prince Chiu Ming would definitely reward them handsomely. There were quite a few cultivators who had the same idea. Kang Taichu, you're a talent. If you're loyal, I can help you to ask the Emperor's palace not to punish you. I can even let you join the Dark Crow Guards and make you a commander or deputy guard captain. Prince Chiu Ming is gathering his forces. He's always cherished talents. Ghost Wolf persuaded. Ao Jiao, leave first. Let me fight. Jiang Tian's eyes were cold and his face was full of killing intent. Shifting stars. Go. In the next moment, a 10-foot divine disc appeared behind Jiang Tian before Ao Jiao and the others could react. It spun in a dazzling light and shook 100 miles. He directly sent Ao Jiao, Qi Liqui, and the others thousands of miles away. It was a powerful divine power that could only be used when one reached the soul formation stage. It used the power of the constellations to move the space and achieve long-distance teleportation. At the moment, Jiang Tian was only controlling the entire divine disk and it consumed a lot of his power. His energy seemed to have dropped a little. Everyone, those who have nothing to do with this, please leave. Jiang Tian's divine disk spun and the light became brighter, enveloping him. His dantian let out a thunderous roar and his body shone like the sun. I can finally use my full strength and twist your heads off. Around his body, layers of flames overlaid and gushed out, turning into raging flames. His aura rose crazily, surging like a bull, as if a supreme divine general had returned to the 9 heavens. Master. Senior. Ta Kong, Mingi, Baizhe, Blackie and Qi Liqui, as well as Ao Jiao and Qi Liqui, were already outside the army, but they were extremely worried about Jiang Tian at the moment. They yelled and rushed forward, wanting to help Jiang Tian. However, Jiang Tian had already made his move. Before he finished speaking, his body swayed and he used the Kunpeng extreme speed. His speed reached the peak and he rushed towards Wu Huan at the speed of light. Bastard, you're the first. In the sky, a dazzling golden light pierced through the sky, leaving a dazzling golden line that was 1,000 miles long. It was so fast that the naked eye couldn't catch it. After the light shot out, the space where Jiang Tian was just now shattered into pieces. There was a terrifying sound of space collapsing that sounded like the cries of ghosts and howls of wolves. Chapter 1463. It's useless. We are the immortals, heavenly officials, and heavenly generals of the ruins Emperor's palace. We have either reached the soul formation realm or have the combat power of a soul formation realm cultivator. The power of the immortals from the upper world is something you can never imagine. Wu Huan's mocking voice was like a giant python's roar or a thunderous roar that came from the 9 heavens. There's no need for you to do it. I'll kill him. The third heavenly general of the White Python Guards, a cultivator half a step into the soul formation realm, Mangya, wearing python scale armor, charged into the 9 heavens. He flew above Jiang Tian and stomped down like he was stepping on an ant. He wanted to stomp Jiang Tian to death. His eyes were full of mockery and mockery. He wanted to stomp Jiang Tian to death. The meaning of humiliation in this was extremely deep and strong. At this moment, countless cultivators from the Ying continent and Northern Sea clenched their fists tightly, their eyes wide open. Even the violent demon beasts in the ancient demon abyss were beating their chests angrily, roaring at the sky with anger. They had fought with the human cultivators of this world for a place to live. At this moment, everyone had a common enemy and could not wait for Mangya to die. Ha! Mangya is going to kill him. General Mangya is picking on soft persimmons to bully. At this moment, the army of 100,000 cultivators from the ruins of immortality was mocking him. Mangya was once a heavenly sect Zongzi. He was extremely talented, and in his era, he was ranked 11th on the God of War list. He suppressed many of his peers and awed an entire era. Now, he was ranked 23rd among the 99 heavenly generals of the ruins Emperor's palace. Mangya's stomp seemed reckless and humiliating, but he did not hold back at all. With this stomp, nomological laws roared and essence chi boiled, forming a giant foot that was 1,000 feet long. It smashed down like a mountain, piercing through the clouds and tearing the sky apart, as though it could sink the continent and crush everything. Rumble. Just as Wu Huan and Ghost Wolf were smiling mockingly, Ao Jiao, Qi Jiui, and the rest were pale with fright, and Mangya was about to be rewarded, boom. A power akin to the eruption of a volcano suddenly exploded at the foot of the vast cliff. This power contained the supreme laws of the vermilion bird, and it surged into the heavens like red flames. It was so vast, surging, and scorching that it was as if thousands of nuclear weapons had exploded at the same time. Ah! Vast Cliff howled miserably as he retreated in midair. However, it was already over. Divine blood scattered across the sky, and one of his legs was blasted apart. His entire body was scorched black and cracked open. What? At this moment, everyone was dumbfounded. The elders and sect masters of the 6 heavenly sects of the below world all turned pale. Even Wu Huan, Gue Lang, and Xin Chang, the 3 supreme giants, were shocked. They all knew that Kang Teichu was very strong. However, he had already been shot several times by the god-vanquishing light cannons and was clearly severely wounded. Even so, he was still able to push back a half-step soul formation stage cultivator. You want to step on me? Do you think I'm easy to bully? Jiang Tian's battle intent surged like a tide. The 30-foot bright divine disc spun rapidly, and the Kunpeng used its extreme speed to close in. He waved his fingers and slashed horizontally. The gung metal divine blade. It was completely formed by Dharma laws. Every tiny grain of gung metal was a rune that formed a chapter of Dharma laws. It was as sharp as a blade. Even though Vast Cliff activated the Dharma form of the sky-swallowing giant python, burned his golden core, and the essence chi around him was boiling like an ocean, forming many python scales to block the attack and even exploding a few protection true artifacts, he still couldn't stop Jiang Tian's slash. Whoosh! His protective light shields cracked, his scales turned into dust, and his armor crumbled. The surging saber light cut into his body, creating deep cuts that exposed his bones. In the blink of an eye, he was about to be cut in half, and his body and soul would be destroyed. Brother Vast Cliff, let me help you. A tall immortal general, who was also wearing a white python scale armor and emitting a bloodthirsty and cold aura, let out a thunderous roar. He held two wheel-like axes in his hands and turned into a silver beam of light, blocking in front of Jiang Tian's blade light. He was Long Xian, one of the 9 divine generals of the White Python Guards and ranked 40 among them. And yet, Jiang Tian didn't hold back his power at all. He used the supreme Dharma laws of gung metal, which was comparable to normal Grand Daos. How powerful was that? It was equivalent to an attack from a soul formation cultivator. How could 2 divine generals who were only half a step away from the divine transformation stage stop them? Not only did Jiang Tian use the most powerful power of the gung metal immortal body, he also used divine Dharma laws that could be used anywhere in the universe. It wasn't a limited Dharma law that could only be used in a galaxy like theirs. Poof! Long Xian spurted out blood. He couldn't withstand it at all and kept falling back. His body was also cut by the blade aura formed by the Dharma laws of gung metal. He's too powerful. Many people frowned. 2 divine generals at the half-soul formation level couldn't even resist Kang Teichu's slash. More importantly, Jiang Tian's blade aura didn't stop at all, they would be killed in the next second. Count me in. Me too. Kill. Before he finished speaking, streaks of golden light, white light, and silver light that pierced through the heavens and earth soared into the sky one after another. 1, 2, 3. In the end, there were 8 divine generals in total, including Mangya who attacked at the beginning. Other than Wu Huan, the divine generals of the White Python Guards all attacked. Boom! 8 divine generals at the half-soul formation level attacked at the same time. How powerful were they? They were surrounded by different laws. Wind, lightning, earth, fire, metal, darkness. They were vast and surged boundlessly, seething like burning mountains and boiling seas, and they crushed expanse after expanse of space. Even an area of 500 kilometers was unable to endure the enormous pressure, causing the ground to collapse while cities were transformed into powder. In the end, 8 dazzling lights converged into a gray pillar of chaotic light, and it actually possessed the aura of the beginning of the primordial era. They often fought together. When they joined forces, they were even more powerful than ordinary half-soul formation level cultivators. They were comparable to an attack from a real soul formation level cultivator. The gray light pillar was 1,000 feet long. It crossed the sky and blocked Jiang Tian's blade aura with the golden law, preventing Jiang Tian from slashing it. Crack, crack. The sky cracked and thunder exploded. What was shocking was that the chaotic light pillar pushed Jiang Tian's golden gung divine blade back 1,000 feet. HM. Interesting. Jiang Tian was surprised. Although he looked like an ordinary person, it was the result of returning to his original state. In fact, he was using the golden gung immortal body. Jiang Tian didn't expect the 8 half-soul formation level cultivators to be able to simulate the aura of chaos and block his slash. Of course, they still couldn't stop Jiang Tian if he used all his divine body and Dharma laws. But that was already very rare. It showed that the ruins Emperor's Palace and the 9 guards were indeed powerful. Ha! Kang Teichu, that's all you've got? A divine general yelled. Right, Kang Teichu, you can't even defeat the 8 of us. You want to be an enemy of the ruins of deity? Besides, our chief guard Wu Huan hasn't done anything yet. If he does, you'll be swallowed immediately and turned into blood. Divine General Long Xian also sneered. Kang Teichu, surrender and beg for mercy. You're a lowly abandoned person. Surrendering is your only way out. Otherwise, you'll die. Mengya became smug again after getting out of danger. Threats and mockery. At this moment, Qi Jui, Zhang Qingyang, Sword Honorable Ao Tian, and the others were all shocked when they saw this scene. They were worried about Jiang Tian and their future. Those divine generals of the White Python Guards were already on par with Jiang Tian. The most powerful chief guard, Wu Huan, hadn't done anything, and the more powerful Golden Crow Guards hadn't done anything either. He's an inferior being from the remote and desolate solar system after all. How dare he say he's going to break through the soaring cloud realm and kill the Ruins Emperor? The sect masters and elders of the 6 heavenly sects of the Hailan world snickered, as if Jiang Tian was just a madman who was fishing for fame and making irresponsible remarks. Chapter 1464. If someone with a sharp mind heard what they said, they would have mocked the cultivators of Hailan. They mocked Kang Teichu, but did they think they could win? Even if Jiang Tian was going to lose, they didn't have the right to mock Jiang Tian. After all, he'd already challenged a few formidable half-step divine transformation realm cultivators without being defeated. Such an accomplishment was rare even in the ruins of immortality, and it was sufficient to show disdain for all. But that was how the world was. Sometimes, the prejudice and arrogance in people's hearts were like a mountain that was difficult to remove. Just like in the mortal world, some people would brag about how powerful their parents and friends were and look down on others even if they were terrible themselves. Let's not talk about a person. Even if it was a country or a civilization that went from weak to strong, a spectacular rise that attracted the attention of many, there would still be people who looked down on it. It was just like how there were still rumors that we mainlanders couldn't afford to eat tea eggs. Even though he's talented, he's from a declining planet after all. He doesn't have enough power. Besides, Prince Chiu Ming was decisive. He sent the 3 elite guards down to the mortal world. That's like killing him in the cradle while he's still weak. If he's given 100 years, no, even 10, the 3 guards might not be able to catch him. Yao Yu Fairy's eyes were filled with regret as she sighed. On the other hand, Wu Shujian rubbed his hands excitedly. I'm afraid he's going to die this time. But how can we get his peerless sword? There are too many people here. Should we just take it? Or ask the 3 guards for it afterward? That sword looks normal when it's not used. They might not be able to tell. Right at this moment, Jiang Tian suddenly sneered and said, "That's right. A few ants and cockroaches dare to speculate my power? Fine, I'll let everyone here witness my true power today. I'll show you what it means to be invincible." Then, Jiang Tian shouted in a low voice. "Red Sparrow." Boom, 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 the sound of a thunderous explosion, the sound of a river collapsing rang out. As the 10-meter-long divine disc behind him spun slowly, an incomparably hot aura shot out from Jiang Tian's body. It was as if a sun had appeared in the sky and could burn mountains and boil seas. The star river that represented the vermilion bird true seal suddenly emerged from the dazzling disc behind his back. It was extremely dazzling and magnificent, like countless stars flashing and extinguishing. It was like a supernova explosion, dazzling and blazing. Boom! When the Red Sparrow seal was activated, the sky was filled with raging flames. The clouds and mist within a radius of 5,000 kilometers were burned away in an instant, and the sky shattered. Everyone saw a giant red sparrow appear on Jiang Tian's body. Each of its particles was formed by true fire runes and contained the essence of fire. It could kill a golden core perfected cultivator, and each feather represented a true fire law. In the end, it formed a red sparrow that was 1,000 feet tall. How terrifying would it be? Boom! Once the Red Sparrow seal appeared, the Red Sparrow seal, the Red Sparrow's divine plate. They only felt as if they were close to a burning star. Heat waves rolled, and the temperature was frighteningly high. Even though they were half-soul formation cultivators and their bodies were tough enough to withstand 100 nuclear explosions, they felt as if they were made of wax. They were about to melt and crack. Then, the red sparrow carried the power of Dharma laws. It opened its mouth and let out a shriek, turning into thousands of fire dragons that flashed across the sky towards the divine generals. No! Run! Let's do it! At this moment, screams and roars resounded on the battlefield. Rumble! 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 The earth trembled, and under the suppression of the gunmetal blade and the burning of the vermilion bird true flame, the grey pillar of chaos that supported the heavens and earth was shattered and shattered. Even the injured vast cliff couldn't withstand it and was burned to the point of exploding. Even his body and armor were destroyed, turning into a dazzling rain of light that was burned to death by the vermilion bird true flame. A crimson fire was burning on Divine General Long Xian's body. He was burning his power and life to resist the cruel heat, but it didn't work. His body, which was comparable to the toughest precious metal in the world, actually began to crack under the high temperature. Then, it collapsed miserably. Then, the third, the fourth, the fifth, within 3 seconds, the bodies of the 8 divine generals and their dantians exploded like blossoming fireworks. At this moment, all the cultivators were shocked to the point their souls almost left their bodies, and they were stunned on the spot like clay statues, unable to move at all. This scene was simply too shocking. Everyone was in disbelief. Those were the 8 divine generals of the White Python Guards. Even Mangya, the weakest one among them, was strong enough to defeat the 10 nascent soul cultivators, and the sect masters of the heavenly sects in the level 2 worlds were no match for him. As for the realm lord of a level 3 world like Emperor Chen, he didn't even deserve to carry Mangya's shoes. As for Long Xian, the most powerful one, it was said that he had cultivated 2 Dharma laws and could defeat all the nascent soul cultivators. When they joined forces, their strength was even more powerful. They could easily defeat a level 2 world in a day, but such a luxurious lineup was destroyed by Jiang Tian. Besides, Jiang Tian was completely suppressing them. He only used 2 divine abilities, and in just 10 seconds, he killed them. It was an instant kill. What kind of terrifying power was this? At that moment, countless cultivators sucked in a breath of cold air. At this time, Ghost Wolf's face turned pale and he suddenly realized something. It turns out that Kang Taichu really showed mercy to me before. If he used such Dharma laws and divine powers, I wouldn't have been alive just now. Kang Taichu, today, I will kill you and avenge my brother. Wu Huan was in so much pain that he wanted to die. Tears flowed down his face and his eyes were filled with hatred. Those 8 divine generals were his right-hand men. Now that they were all dead, he had become a commander without an army. The status of the White Python Guards would fall rapidly in the future. Besides, he and Mangya were not just superiors and subordinates. They trained together every day, fought side by side, and fought together. They had already formed a deep friendship that even surpassed the blood connection. Oh my god, this guy is too powerful. Wu Shujian refreshed Jiang Tian's impression of him again. He had carefully observed Jiang Tian's cultivation level. In his opinion, Jiang Tian was indeed at the golden core level or the nascent soul level. But he seemed to be able to control more than one Dharma law. The attributes of the golden core level were also different. This was very strange and rare, like a fantasy story. Even in the ruins of immortality and among the heavenly talents on the God of War list, it was rarely seen. But in any case, he was only at the nascent soul level or the golden core level. But now, he killed 8 half-step soul formation cultivators with one slash. This was too terrifying. What did a half-step soul formation cultivator mean? That was the most powerful overlord among the nascent soul cultivators. Nascent souls were extremely powerful and had begun to evolve into gods. Their strength was 10 times or even dozens of times more than ordinary nascent soul cultivators. Even if a golden core perfected cultivator had reached the nascent soul level, there was still a huge gap between them and the real nascent soul level and the half-step soul formation level. But Jiang Tian killed them with one slash. Chapter 1465. Could it be that this kid is going to turn the tables? Jing Shimin, the sect master of the Tao-seeking sect, and Shi Zhenxiang, the sect master of the heavenly incense sect, had reached the pinnacle of the Heilong world and could shake an entire region with a stomp of their feet. Yet, at that moment, they were so shocked that their faces turned pale. Tap, tap, tap. Some of the elders were so frightened that their teeth and legs were trembling. They could not wait to run away. They were all very strong. They were veteran nascent soul cultivators or peak stage nascent soul cultivators. They were elders and sect masters, but they knew very well that they were still a long way from reaching the half-step soul formation realm. At that moment, they were certain that if they were to stand in front of Jiang Tian, they would not even be able to withstand a snap of his fingers. They would be pulverized into dust. It could be said that in front of Jiang Tian, cultivators like them who were once high and mighty, looking down on the common people and believing themselves to be gods of the upper world, were nothing. They were ants and cockroaches that could be crushed with a finger. How is this possible? Long Xingnan exclaimed in disbelief. In her impression, her ancestors had told her that the 9 guards of the ruins Emperor's palace were a divine army that was invincible in every battle. They were invincible and undefeatable in every battle. But today, the 8 divine generals had perished in the hands of Jiang Tian. It made her feel as though her world had been overturned and her worldview had been destroyed. Oh. This kid is evil. He's only at the Golden Core realm, but since the start of the battle, he has been using laws that only nascent soul experts can use. Furthermore, he has already used the laws of space, metal, and fire. His golden core is also a mutated golden core in the shape of a divine disc. The Golden Crow Guard captain, Shen Cheng, had a solemn expression. His eyes shot out beams of divine light as he carefully scanned Jiang Tian. He was shocked. Could he have a transcendent grade golden core? But even the legendary divine grade golden core can only control 2 types of Dharma laws. But he has already displayed 3 types of Dharma laws, or even more. This is unbelievable. Even Shen Cheng, who had lived for thousands of years and was knowledgeable, had never seen such a bizarre thing. At that moment, he could not see through Jiang Tian at all. My lord, victory. The absolute beginning is invincible, invincible, invincible. Only Jiang Tian's camp on the periphery burst into deafening cheers. Senior Tai Chu, well done. Invincible. Ao Jiao waved her pink fists. She was so excited that her beautiful face flushed red. Her curvy and exquisite body trembled non-stop. Her full chest heaved up and down violently. Kill. Kill. Kill them until they are in despair, kill them until not even a chicken or a dog is left. Let them taste the bitter taste of failure, endless despair and fear. However, Chilaqui's beautiful eyes were filled with tears as she gnashed her teeth and shouted. But at this moment... Whoosh! Whoosh! Several beams of colorful light shot out from the turbulent energy. They were the nascent souls of the 8 divine generals. Their nascent souls were no longer ordinary cultivators. Normal nascent souls were usually only about an inch in size, and some were even as small as walnuts or dates. However, their nascent souls were already the size of children, and they already carried a trace of divine aura, as if they were indestructible. You think you can escape? Jiang Tian grunted. The divine generals of the White Python Guards were the Ruins Emperor's loyal accomplices. Most of them even came from the Ruins Emperor's ancestral land. They had once suppressed the wandering cultivators in the ancient deity land. Jiang Tian wanted to destroy the Ruins Emperor's palace, restore the ancient deity land and wipe out an entire sect. He would have to fight with them sooner or later, so there was no way he would show them mercy right then. Boom! The 10-meter-long divine disc behind Jiang Tian spun again. The Taotia's return to origin, which had already become a law-true imprint, rumbled and trembled. An enormous vortex that was like a black hole appeared. It was incomparably deep and contained an extremely terrifying devouring force. Whoosh! At that moment, everything was turned upside down and chaotic, as if time were flowing backward and the air was flowing in reverse. The nascent souls of the 8 divine generals realized in fear that they couldn't break free from the terrifying restraint, even if they burned themselves. Save me, my friend. Mangya's nascent soul let out a cry and was sucked into the Taotai vortex. It was torn apart and crushed by a terrifying power. Bang! 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 Like watermelons being smashed, the nascent souls of the other divine generals turned into blood and spirit qi and were swallowed. Only Long Xian's nascent soul was left. It was enveloped in a ball of golden light and was barely holding on with the 9 dragon plates protection Dharma artifact, but it wouldn't last for long. Stop it, villain. Let him go and we can still negotiate. Kang Te-chu, how dare you? The divine generals of the 3 armies shouted at the same time, trying to stop Jiang Tian. Why do you have to do this, my friend? If you kill him, you'll escalate the conflict to the point where it can't be resolved. The elders and sect masters of the 6 heavenly sects also tried to persuade Jiang Tian with their immortal will, hoping to soften Jiang Tian and save Long Xian's nascent soul. Swish! 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 Beams of light shot through the sky towards Jiang Tian. Dozens of elders and sect masters had already attacked, hoping to break Jiang Tian's Taoyue's true seal. But the most frightening thing was that many of those nascent soul heavenly lords were experienced and peak stage nascent soul grand heavenly lords, but once they touched the edge of the Taotai vortex, they would sink into it and be unable to free themselves. Even their bodies and nascent souls would be crushed and torn apart, turning into a rain of flesh and blood, or even into the purest essence qi. In a blink, more than 30 nascent soul heavenly lords were killed. This was a terrifying scene, one that was tragic to the extreme. The Taotai swirl was dark and extremely powerful. Even the sun and the moon seemed to be sinking in it. More than 30 nascent soul heavenly lords were crushed into the tiniest particles and swallowed completely. Not even their bodies were left behind, not even a drop of ashes. Kang Te-chu, how dare you hurt my brother? You're courting death. In the end, even the leader of the White Python Guards, Wu Huan, couldn't help but attack. With a sway of his body, he turned into 1,000 feet long python. His entire body was snow white, and his entire body was filled with an aura that made people tremble. It was as if he could devour the heavens and earth as he charged towards Jiang Tian. This was the fusion of the Dharma, the physical body, the nascent soul, and the laws of nature. It was almost the same as the real heaven-swallowing white python. Its power was extremely strong and terrifying. Sttth. Roar! Let him go and I'll spare your life. The giant white python flew across the sky and opened its mouth. A black hole appeared and the devouring laws rumbled. It was going to fight with the Taoyue's true seal for Long Xian's nascent soul. Captain Wu Huan is so decisive. He's using the Dharma form right from the start. The Dharma form and the Dharma form. His bloodline, divine powers, nascent soul and body are all combined. Captain Wu Huan is going all out. This time, Captain Wu Huan is really angry. He's using a killing move right from the start. Kang Te-chu is going to die this time. At this moment, many people cried out in surprise. Dharma powers were unleashed at the Golden Core stage. For both nascent soul and Golden Core adepts, Dharma powers were the greatest weapons. His Dharma idol had left his body and broken through the shackles of his physical body. His dharmic powers had been elevated to the extreme. However, as long as the Dharma form did not fuse with the physical body, the danger was not great. If the Dharma form was destroyed, it would only damage a portion of the Golden Core's true essence and dharmic powers. But once Fa.I.N.1. Spirit, nascent soul, Dharma power, chi, blood, and many other factors seemed to have been twisted into a rope. When the limit was strengthened, one's combat ability would be improved by 100 times. However, everything has its drawbacks. Even the Dharma and the One are not exempt from this. If one was severely injured while casting the spell, it would affect all sides. There was basically no chance of escaping. The self-destruction of the nascent soul was the most powerful killing move of a nascent soul cultivator. Once it was used, it was said to be comparable to a soul formation cultivator and could even severely injure a soul formation cultivator. But everyone thought that Wu Huan was better. Wu Huan had the true bloodline of the heaven-devouring white python. One had to know that the white sky-devouring python was a top-notch spatial creature, very similar to the Taotai divine beast. It was said that the white sky-devouring python with the purest bloodline would create a small world in its body, which could completely devour the world. An adult purebred white sky-devouring python could even devour a planet with a diameter of billions of feet. Due to Wu Huan's special bloodline, he had once followed the many emperors and princes of the ruins Emperor's Palace to conquer the world, making great contributions. The White Python Guard was named after him. He was one of the 9 commanders, and even the ruins Emperor's Palace had changed his fate to reward him. It was obvious how powerful Wu Huan was and how noble his bloodline was. It could be said that although Wu Huan was only half a step into the soul formation realm, because he cultivated the flawless cultivation method passed down by the ruins Emperor and had a special bloodline, he could definitely compete with a soul formation expert who was born in the deity ground. However, no matter what, the white sky-devouring python was not a true divine beast. It was far inferior to the Taotai. Moreover, Wu Huan only had a trace of the white sky-devouring python's bloodline and some innate abilities. He was not a pure white python. As for Jiang Tian's Taotai divine body, it was refined from the darkest stone tablet. It was a true deity material. The power of the Taotai divine body was not much weaker than that of the true Taotai divine beast. You want to compete with me in terms of devouring power? You're courting death. Jiang Tian's eyes were full of contempt as he let out a soft snort. The 30-foot golden core behind him spun slowly as the power of the Taoyes return to the origin was unleashed. It was as if the entire universe was collapsing as countless substances rushed towards the Taotai vortex.